delivery system and, by extension, government.
We are left with about 2 or 3 clauses to finish with a bill. And in the order paper, 3rd reading of the bill has been advertised.
Appointment of the special prosecutor and other staff will be done by the President on the nomination by the Attorney General, subject to approval by Parliament by an absolute majority. The office is expected to have 4 divisions: the administrative, prosecutions, asset recovery unit and management divisions. Chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Committee, Ben Abdallah, could not tell how soon the prosecutor could be appointed.
As for when exactly the person will be appointed to occupy the office, I can't tell, but I believe that it will be as soon as possible, because the President himself is very serious about this whole establishment, and I believe he would not take too much time in ensuring that the right person is appointed to occupy the office.
The House had in earlier amendments removed the independent that was attached to the prosecutor because some MPs did not find it appropriate. They argued the prosecutor will not be independent once he or she is appointed by the executive.
Meanwhile, some members of the minority say the bill is one that will witch hunt political opponents. They say even though they will support every move towards fighting corruption, they are convinced the office setup is one to fulfill a political campaign.
The allegation and assertion that this bill will witch hunt political opponents is still there. We cannot wish it away, because it's a very important office that we have created with enormous powers. The special prosecutor will have enormous powers. The powers can be used capriciously. The powers can be abused. I mean, it's a political office that we are establishing, funded or in pursuant of a political promise that cannot elude anybody. And that's why in debating the clauses of the bill, we are at all times mindful of the fact that the office can be abused, the powers can be abused, the rights and liberties of individuals can be abused. So we have crafted provisions, in some cases, that circumscribe the powers of the special prosecutor. We have done it in such a way, we've debated the provisions of the law in such a way that will minimize the propensity to use the bill to abuse the civil liberties and fundamental rights.
So why didn't the minority oppose it?
Why will we oppose it? Why? You mean we don't want to fight corruption?
But if you're saying it's supposed to witch hunt political opponents.
We are not saying that. I am saying that there is the propensity, there's the likelihood that it can be used that way. But we want an institution that can fight corruption.
You are saying it's a political setup. So is that to say that if the NDC comes to power, you will do away with the special prosecutor?
No. I'm not saying that it's a political setup by the MPP for the purpose of the MPP. I'm saying that it's a political office established in pursuant of a political promise. Okay? It now becomes an institution of state. And because it's a political office, set up for the pursuant of the manifesto of the MPP, it can be abused. But now it's a national office. Okay? Political in character. Who is going to appoint the special prosecutor? The Attorney General and the President. Who are the people to be shortlisted? The civil society is already saying that the process must be open, transparent, and competitive. Why? Because they think that the person who is to occupy the office as special prosecutor must win the confidence of the generality of Ghanaians. I mean, the Americans have said that the special prosecutor must not only look backwards, must also look to the present and future. And so you see, many people, it's not only the minority that's concerned. Many people are concerned. I mean, and we know, history shows clearly that, I mean, when the powers of such an office is not circumscribed in such a way that it respects the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals, it can be abused.
And now to a period that has been highly anticipated by all, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, will present the annual second budget to be drawn up by the incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo's administration to Parliament. Now, since assuming office at the beginning of this year, the incumbent government says it has strived to achieve a balance between its avowed commitment to supply-side expansionary economic policy aimed at accelerating growth and thus creating daily needed jobs, and the unavoidable exigency for fiscal consolidation, which requires some stringent demand management. Now, over the past 9 months, economic realities have persuaded the government to scale down its ambitious public spending plans in the face of determination to achieve its 6.3% of gross domestic product fiscal deficit target. Now, despite revenue shortfalls, and indeed, it appears the target will be met, albeit at the cost of constrained provision of public goods and services. The budget is said to largely target agri and job creation. Now, still on the budget, members of Parliament have been expressing varied views of the 2018 budget, which will be read by the Finance Minister this morning. And whilst the minority expects nothing new, the majority members think it is one that will impact positively on the lives of Ghanaians.
Is that the aging of the John Mahama administration is what, and that is why we seen the good feel factor. You know, is all government, also as a country. What the minority must focus on, that we're telling the nation, having, and now Ghanaians what to expect in the next. So it's what Ghanaians are. What they did yesterday was, so it is like a preemptive, you know, discouraging faith in this administration. Overall for the presidency and confidence in us. Deliver. And tomorrow you start this.
I expect another big story that the government will bring just to, you know, deceive the people, deceive in the sense that, you know, they talk big and do very little. So I'm not really expecting any new thing from what we had in 2017, because many of the issues that were captured, be it one district, one factory, one constituency, 1 million, one village, one dump, I haven't seen any of them coming through, so they will be repeated.
Our friends in minority, of course, don't have much to do, so all they can do is to rush and put things out that trying to preempt the budget discussion. But of course, Ghanaians know where they are coming from. This is the year of action. So the budget that is coming, I expect that there's going to be a lot of action items in it, including where the minister said that they're going to reduce the price of electricity so that the good and people can enjoy. So it's going to be an action budget. That's what I will put for sure.
Well, as usual, I'm expecting the finance minister to quote something from the Bible to open his statement, as usual, definitely. And most importantly, I'm expecting the finance minister to touch on the security nature of the country, and also talk about how the government is going to create jobs for the people, the teeming youth of Ghana, and also talk about how they are going to fight corruption in the system, because as we speak now, there are so many corruption in the system. Goods and services are procured through single source procurement without boss approval, etc.
Now, government has said the 2018 budget and economic policy statement will dwell largely on improving Ghana's agri sector. In spite of varied views by industry watchers, Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Afriyie-Akoto, is confident the budget will help redirect the youth into agriculture to grow the country's agribusiness sector.
It's featured very prominently in the allocation of budgetary resources in order to expand that sector to absorb the huge unemployed youth that we see wandering around Accra. I was very surprised last week, Wednesday, when I visited Esuchare rice projects to find that young taxi drivers and other people, and young men in Accra are now turning into rice farmers. It really encouraged me, and they are asking me to make more lands available for them to be able to do more, for them to earn more money. That is the new atmosphere emerging in the countryside. Government will continue to encourage that, to absorb, to get that, redirect the youth into agriculture so they become agri-business people to help this country to move forward.
Right, let's move on. And consumers and vehicle owners should brace themselves for a 5 to 10% increase in fuel prices at the pumps. The increase is expected to take effect on Thursday, November 16. The increase has been attributed to the upsurge in world market prices and marginal losses on the forex market. Now, also depending on an OMC, pump price for petrol will likely increase to 4 cedis 66 pesos per litre from the current 4 cedis 32 pesos. Diesel will also increase to 4 cedis 68 pesos per litre from 4 cedis 23 pesos. Now, pump prices for both products could be expected to rise by between 3 to 11% depending on the oil marketing company. Now, away from that and to the international front, international relations expert and Dean of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Professor Vladimir Inchi Danso, has advised the South African sub-regional body not to intervene in the happenings in Zimbabwe. Now, Robert Mugabe's ZANU-FP party has accused its military chief of meddling in the country's politics with with treason accusation. Now, this follows the ousting of the country's vice president.
Does this development have any potency to cause some instability in Zimbabwe?
Certainly, yes. When you have a military putting the mark in politics, it's scary. It's scary not only for Zimbabwe, but for the region also, perhaps for the whole of Africa. And so it's scary because the picture is not all that also clear. Who is in charge? What does the military chief mean when he talks about defending the revolution? Is he on the side of Mugabe? What does the wife of Mugabe mean? What does the youth mean? It's a little murky, and we hope we'll get things clearer and we don't get to a situation where the already very volatile situation in Zimbabwe is exacerbated by military intervention whose end would not know.
Already, General Constantino Chiwenga has been accused of treasonable conduct. Now, looking at the influence that Robert Mugabe has in terms of the loyalty that the army, some army chiefs also hold for him, I'm asking if this can really be sustained to actually cause that kind of uprising that would cause some worry from your analysis.
This is exactly what I was saying, because we do not know on whose side the army chief is. But if by his words would make any analysis, then I would say he seems to be wanting to defend the revolution. Defending the revolution also means that he is defending Mugabe because that is the revolution. But it becomes murkier when you have the wife warning him to stay in the barracks. When you have the youth also of the ruling party also warning. And it looks to me that there is some schism in the party, and that is what the army chief is looking at and making it impossible for it to escalate into any kind of instability. So it's not clear. The picture is never clear. Mugabe has also kept quiet. Those who are warning the army chief are warning him, but then who are they? Are they on the side of Mugabe? Are they protecting Mugabe? Is Mugabe senile? Is he unwell? The situation is very murky, and we need to just pray and see how it pans out in Zimbabwe.
From the sub-regional body, I mean, and South Africa in this instance, standing tall on this, what kind of reaction would ensure that this does not escalate into a situation that would affect the people of Zimbabwe?
In actual terms, I mean, I do not think any of the sub-regional countries around would want to intervene. Not even the whole body of SADC would intervene until it has escalated into a kind of civil war. Until we have seen something like that, don't expect anybody, don't expect SADC, don't expect South Africa to even go in. They have been beating their fingers once in Central African Republic. So I do not expect South Africa to go in to quell any rebellion or whatever it is. No, it wouldn't happen. And mind you, the situation in Zimbabwe is akin to that of South Africa. And so they will be more cautious. And it is the only superpower around who could intervene. And I don't think they would do that. Not even Zambia will also try it, knowing very well that they have also a problem on hand.
Now, meanwhile, Zimbabwe's military has read out a statement after taking over the national broadcaster ZBC, saying it has taken action to target criminals. Now, however, it is said that this was not a military takeover of government and that President Robert Mugabe was safe, and heavy gunfire and artillery were heard in northern suburbs of the capital, Harare, early on Wednesday. Let's listen to Major General Sibusiso Moyo as he read the statement.
And Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, Comrade R.G. Mugabe, and his family are safe and sound, and their security is guaranteed. We are only targeting criminals around him, causing social and economic suffering in the country in order to bring them to justice. As soon as we have accomplished our mission, we expect that the situation will return to normalcy.
Now to some other stories. The Financial Division of the Accra High Court has ordered a gold scam syndicate led by one Kwame Amponsa, who is alleged to be the director of Bar Purity Ghana Limited, for defrauding an Italian national, to open their defense on February 13, 2018. Now, prosecution has meanwhile closed its case.
The court, presided by Justice Lorenda Owusu, said prosecution has been able to establish a prima facie case against the defendant. The given him as gold turned out not to contain any gold after a test by PMMC. The court feels it is imperative to make the defendant answer some questions.
Delivery system and, by extension, government.
We are left with about 2 or 3 clauses to finish with a bill. And in the order paper, third reading of the bill has been advertised.
Appointment of the special prosecutor and other staff will be done by the President on the nomination by the Attorney General, subject to approval by Parliament by an absolute majority. The office is expected to have 4 divisions: the administrator's delivery system and, by extension, government.
We are left with about 2 or 3 clauses to finish with a bill. And in the order paper, third reading of the
delivery system and, by extension, government.
We are left with about 2 or 3 clauses.
Delivery system and, by extension, government.
We are left with about 2 or 3 clauses to finish with a bill. And in the order paper, third reading of the bill has been advertised.
Appointment of the special prosecutor and other staff will be done by the President on the nomination by the Attorney General, subject to approval by Parliament by an absolute majority. The office is expected to have 4 divisions: the administrative, prosecutions, asset recovery unit and management divisions. Chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Committee, Ben Abdallah, could not tell how soon the prosecutor could be appointed.
As for when exactly the person will be appointed to occupy the office, I can't tell. But I believe that it will be as soon as possible, because the President himself is very serious about this whole establishment. And I believe he would not take too much time in ensuring that the right person is appointed to occupy the office.
The House had in earlier amendments removed the independent that was attached to the prosecutor because some MPs did not find it appropriate. They argued the prosecutor will not be independent once he or she is appointed by the executive.
Meanwhile, some members of the minority say the bill is one that will witch hunt political opponents. They say even though they will support every move towards fighting corruption, they are convinced the office setup is one to fulfill a political campaign.
The allegation and assertion that this bill will witch hunt political opponents is still there. We cannot wish it away because it's a very important office that we have created with enormous powers. The special prosecutor will have enormous powers. The powers can be used capriciously. The powers can be abused. I mean, it's a political office that we are establishing, funded or in pursuant of a political promise that cannot elude anybody. And that's why in debating the clauses of the bill, we are at all times mindful of the fact that the office can be abused, the powers can be abused, the rights and liberties of individuals can be abused. So we have crafted provisions, in some cases, that circumscribe the powers of the special prosecutor. We have done it in such a way, we've debated the provisions of the law in such a way that will minimize the propensity to use the bill to abuse the civil liberties and fundamental rights.
So why didn't the minority oppose it?
Why will we oppose it? Why? You mean we don't want to fight corruption?
But if you're saying it's supposed to witch hunt political opponents.
We are not saying that. I am saying that there is the propensity, there's the likelihood that it can be used that way. But we want an institution.
Yes, actually enjoying free SHS. It means that the funding should and has to increase. We'll be finding out whether that 1.2 billion Ghana cedis figure we are hearing will be allocated to the funding of free SHS in the 2018 budget will be something that will be confirmed by the finance minister later on. And as I said, a number of projections that we do have which will be subjected to some analysis. So just stay with us here on TV3, on 3FM, on Onia FM, Connect FM, and Akoma FM as well in Kumasi. We have it all covered all across the world on 3news.com. We're bringing you all the sides of the budget presentation analysis. I'm going to go to Parliament now, and Bright Nanamfo together with Bright Asempa of Onia FM and Winston Amwa of 3FM are seated there to engage various personalities and persons who have a direct jurisdiction over this issue, specifically concerning the budget, to take it over. So, Bright, if you can hear me now, you can take it over from Parliament while we continue with the analysis. Okay, so we're going to get into Bright and Nanamfo very shortly, but then we'll get to him now from the understanding that we do get. We're going to go to Parliament now. That's where the finance minister, all other things being equal, will be presenting the 2018 budget. Bright Nanamfo is there together with the rest of the team. Bright, if you can hear me now, you can take it over now and continue with the analysis.
Good morning and welcome to Media General's coverage of the budget for today. It's a great day for the minister, a great day for Ghanaians as they await the finance minister's approach to the Parliament, where he's expected to do one thing, tell Ghanaians how he intends to manage and run this economy from now to the next fiscal year. The team is ready. Also, the platforms are all very active now, and time to let you in on exactly how this whole process is going to be from now to when the Finance Minister dropped his final word on the floor of Parliament. The team is ready, and Bright Asempa is here. Winston Amwa is also here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good
morning. Na anope nyama mutse e wo nia
nana bibia boko I said e wonim na is the D-Day obia twen say finance minister e dey nsem nyina be ba betu dwa said e be ya on be ho said e be cause so Ghanaians are waiting.
Right, so for viewers on TV3, our listeners on our radio platforms, and also those of you who will be monitoring on the website 3news.com, we will let you in on exactly what and how the day is going to be. It promises to be wonderful. The Finance Minister is expected. Let me quickly tell you how some of the papers have put what's happening today. The BNFT this morning says that budget day for Riata to turn attention to growth. That's how it captures today's activity. And certainly the headline suggests some expectations. He's expected to turn attention to growth. The last budget talked about the fact that we're sowing the seeds of growth to create jobs. But exactly has these jobs been created? The paper is suggesting that we can forgive Uforiata because of the kind of economy he inherited, and then give him the chance to properly move on after having stabilized the economy. But Wilson, is that what you think through, that we were expected to see growth and creation of jobs in the previous budget? Now, the BNFT is suggesting that, well, we can forgive the finance minister because he inherited debt, he inherited arrears, the deficit was huge. So at least let's give him the benefit of the doubt that this budget will create that jobs we've been talking about.
Well, right, the finance minister definitely knew what he inherited. He told us what he was going to do. And it's important that when you make promises, you are held accountable to the very promises that you make. So if the finance minister, for instance, in the 2017 budget tells all of us that the planting for food and jobs is going to create 750,000 jobs, one would want to see those jobs. Because I do not believe that a finance minister made these statements without any research. The finance minister would definitely make these comments because his team has sat down, they've planned on this, they said, you know what, this is what we want to do, and we believe it would get us that result. So I would want to hold people accountable. Of course, I know there's a school of thought that would argue that, politics is always the act of the possible. Was it possible? Well, I wasn't there. You were there. You told me you were going to do it. It's my duty to hold you accountable. Why couldn't you do it? We would want to know. But I believe, that certainly based on the figures we have seen, the last time we were talking about having created some 185,000 jobs, that's very, so short of the 750,000 jobs that they said they were going to create. And also talking about job creation and the fact that, the one district, one factory, I think we had seen one being launched and others in the pipeline of being launched also. That in itself doesn't create jobs. It wouldn't create the sort of jobs that you would need. And so let's see what would be captured in this. But if the 2017 budget was meant to sow the seeds for job creation and sow the seeds for growth and job creation, there is some bit of doubt as to whether we've been able to achieve our target. The minority says growth is at 4%. Well, that is, as we speak, we haven't ended the year yet. Even when the year is ended, there are always other, reviews that could even increase the growth rate. And so they told us we're going to achieve a growth rate of 6.3%, including oil, and a non-oil growth rate of 4.6%. The minority says it's 4% for now. Let's see if the way to achieve the 4.6% and whether that would actually constitute. But finally, Bright, for me, what is of importance to me is not the figure. What is of importance to me is the expression in the life of the Ghanaian. Right. Because I believe in one thing. There is always a special territorial expression of development and growth.
We'll hear more from the experts when they take their seat. Yeah, but Asempa, look, Mr. Foriata can say, economy me beto yeah and sheda nye dia na eye papa ye deka ye futuro no mu asadada now me pese me ma enjuma ba but because of any man na e wo ho nti mentumi anyesa DNF to say yam fan channel if you say the obeto ye no enya dia na obetumi within 1 year why ye bibi enti ebia ndey oba na ne dia na bibi obeka be about job creation then we can take him on if he fails to achieve his targets.
Right, Nana, I'm saying, Mammy Finfi, baby, I Winston, the fee and sowing the seed for jobs. Ye dear Diabano, near the Nejuma. And your baby said, Diabano, to me, that is one thing we have to establish. Say, this 2017 budget, you know, dear and I to me, Aje. A trust ye dear Diabana, ye baby Yanjuma. And you know, young training share 2018 budget, you know. The reflection of the 2017 and they to me yeah you see 2018 the omode balo you bet me achieve before now we can only wait you bet me achieve so say obeba na audience number 2
and now who can be say you say duaba no ya dua you say cd no at least baby original no eye kakra interest rate and share down for but your ratio say between
inflation so
inflation so
about 11.6 yeah
enti let's just say duaba no wedua
well Nana the thing is those indicators they are fine they don't say it's quite significant say they work and swat take akra but at the end of the day the ordinary Ghanaian you know I reflect it on the life of the ordinary Ghanaian. I was say ordinary Ghanaian and the life improve it. Now say to me enya 3 square meals a day. And to me could gasobani a ton in your mouth. That is when they bet me I say hey seed you know. In fact, yeah, and a bit fish work on you. The things you're trying to share.
You're shady.
I grew up a surfer. I grew up a surfer. Well, when you mention come on, I mean, a year about so kind for right. Spare parts for the being common. I send back work. I'm in country. Right. I send back work. I told my commerce. What can I say? One would say one more import duties. Suma. Now, one more say, there's a tribe about one man. Teach you one more tonsan. And one more shall say, oh, Oba. Nia Oba Betono, or met me at the swamp. Oka say, or more, oh, yeah, Omagin and Gomechim, haven't you moved a boon, 20% per country in the past. Haven't you moved boon? Name went to me and Nenasa, Nemoyano, and she moved 5%. I didn't. Almost one my jar to say, oh, share my name, my jar to say, Neman, I didn't crack. Until a memedy can say, oh, see a shape in Puntua, I will be a chair. A certain animal as a son. I mean, what you say. Into who ye bibia menom ya na menhwe sa indicators eye dio but indicators no eye bibi nti ne de indicators no to ye to e ma na boa me ne wo nti no se e ba ne yekoto kuma ne ehu into the greatest way of measuring well-being e wo di pakoto kuma enye indicators me bottom there be na as upon to say once in a part say ye be hu say asetna mu ya enye inflation akofom enye GDP akosro na mom yese nipa no tumi akoto do ni na ko dia so ka say GDP akosro o ka say inflation akofo mo e ba na sa no nsachaye be na de ba ni abrabo and yes you sure I mean it's not a matter of just churning out figures but we need to know the impact of a reduction in figures for me. That is what has been lacking in our budget presentations and all our analysis in this country. We churn out the figures and that is the end of it. How many people have jobs? How have those jobs impacted their lives and their families? We need to know. Then we know that we are improving. But if you say we are giving construction jobs, temporary jobs to 100,000 people, and after 6 months they don't have job again, that for me is no job. Job that there's progression. You're watching us on TV3. All our platforms are well activated. 3FM, you're listening to us on Nia FM. We're there too. If you're joining us from Takrade, this is Connect FM.
you're listening to us in Kumasi. Akuma is live, and we'll be telling you what the finance minister is bringing to the House this morning. And of course, we'll be telling you more about it. The budget. It's the budget, and the budget from now till when we rise up from here. Now, this morning, a lot of you out there, you've been talking about the budget. They are who expect to say, Mr. Foria Tabeka, they are waging tresse on can, and India, maybe we will be a different common so or yen say a baby. Yapasia de took sa Akasamun Mount, George. Namo kwan so ono kasa one wahia nkofo anope omodwendwen nsamo a Mr. Foria Tabeka ho why ready so ono be kasa asem yanko baby a George wo sisia. This is what it feels like.
The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is expected to present the 2018 budget and economic policy of government to Parliament later in the day, and they are seeking approval to spend 61 billion cedis. And some hints we've gathered are that there's going to be 25% cut in electricity tariffs and some tax adjustment, amongst others. This morning, we want to, get your projections and expectations of the budget. Welcome to the Leonard.
Sir, Manja Joe Papa. What I say? Why am I going to be table? No, man, no one quite the name. Young for budget no my. Into so big natural because yourself. Woman, and Shinima. The moon said, we are quite new Bruno. Moon said, Nambi and my train, or the super table, no, so that no one said, Yama. Mayan train. Done a yacht, no, maybe, or see you in no, maybe. Man, no be mad at politicians, no. Where am I say, where were her? Where did you have? Where did you have? We were. One mistake. One said on more year. Because Saban said MPP now was on mark of NDC, Public Account Committee, Chairman no NDC. No, I can say no profit. MPP Fiscal, NDC. What? Again, the cost of Kruma. And the young not as I said, Muto to Enkakra. Yes, young school in them.
Now, some budget on really, I won't can SMP, I won't can so much capital taxes on, spare parts. I was looking for no more than but a share system are reflected. Set down reflected here. Or some taxes are member enters on the way in matter. And of course, sometimes heading. Because what won't worry and what as member worry, I mean, hey, but empowerment, but to don't be that. But last year, no worry, no Nancy can't go to cotton pan BBS. Okay. And to talk at a 7 million mic before I can see now to be now to one of Modaso for the meantime. What I say? In some way, it's not simple so I never come by Yan Juma. Okay. What I say? Intimate in Panano. So office over to Yanamana to Abanamano. Say Yamia do not come a kuma. Obunza no, or mine I mean, or somebody on my second ball mine hopra. Okay. That's the problem. Okay. Now, Minister and expert say they approve 61 billion cedi for the whole project. And also
61 no, to me no, and I was more than that. Sir? What I say? Said the bear on mine no obia ye na ye won to yembo. But at least and come mammy or democracy. And at least Sanka Bosuno Nanka Ghana bank so mammy 100 Ghana cedi. And come here kwame ameti say Mamma mia 100 cedis are Nanka 100 na betum Cabosuno.
Maybe a chomuno. Now, see a discama government no can the budget near charge manner. You better know where DSS of a broso. But when you say, Omunko Dima and Broso, now come to me a year Juma, Amania back a ministry, Yadeba Cobbit my year Jumama, Sikanum Pocrano on Sani Bibria, a beer ministry, Biniaka Comano, Sikebi, of Uso, Scowy, a dog, maybe a Juma Bay and Nasca, yet Chaman and Webiana, oh, here. Omundi no kremo mo omo gina platform so ka se nkofo disika o no mo ba omo do mo mbe disika iti expect say ye ma usika se fa ko ye adwuma unkodi so what you say now disika ne be ye adwuma esese wo ye
the budget no aban so e de adwuma be ba amaka nsempi the minority say Ghana for mumbaba mo na hardship na eba no
ai ene de on betumi aka na hardship ye fi mu da ben 10 years say 8 years ene o ma na tena hardship na 10 months pe na hardship na ye de ene de ye ka no mo ka o mu ni mu ya nko mo ye dada o hu aya me di ye politicians no ho yaw wonya opportunity for 8 years want to me anya hwe want to me it is an answer when you side you know when you know and no my watching one memo has among trouble boss made it to me and this is for they can talk but among two or more
living in the first place in the economy Nangaza you will be me I don't see we are just there say one and you don't another chance sorry night your for instance me I realize say you target yeah seriously you have a project in Zimbabwe say because we don't have economy because our economy is in somebody's else kitchen so okofupe then we are catching cold then we can't do anything. So for me, I don't even see in the first place say will be a different economy, let alone for us to go and read budget.
Go for people. Electricity some way, 2 years ago, no hard drink, a Hagana phone and any papa cope and our side will be in the same day, because year, so be a best. And I don't know, no so no pet. I'm promises on your baby, and then say be a political talk. But I'm more to go for your mabano. The way I not prices now is say no. So almost yet so almost so many budget.
Okay, make I say you really have some budgets. Yeah, so we'll scrap the the duties, import duties on spare parts amongst others. The people say that's them to say.
Seriously, I'm told the duties has even escalated. So that should tell you. I was telling you earlier yeah, we are near and we are not prepared to be on our own. But just say, you can a nation, a group of nations, we are independent. So we claim we are independent, but we are not fully independent yet. But then we are allowed to talk and do things like others will do. But then we are not the same. Say we will do this, we will do that, but eventually we will not be able to do. For instance, I know maybe say. Yanka last year, 2017 budget every year. Projections before we even move forward, Yanka, we said we would do this. Is it there indeed? Yeah. Did we find the money? Did we spend? Is the thing actualized? Is it there for human being to feel it, to touch it? That is why I'm saying but you don't see the thing. 61 billion, we will vote for it. But eventually, no, you have but you will say, impact ben na 61 billion I don't see it.
The same thing that Chinese for and Damako Lima, Omujojo, Chinese woman go school, and school assembly account. Yama Okro, we between your guys no one moment, Mumbiso, Modeno Betmaya, Yamom Capitano, Yamoneta. Media, and I don't know, committee in there for my property or property. Now, must start it. But they be a call, not a deba could pay a C one, they be a best scam on and we are here. You say, do you know that? Yes. We know pottery. We are bringing how much here into this country. We know what we are doing with rice. Now, I learned it's about 1.something billion in excess importation. These are all income we can generate here. But we are not. We use our money rather to generate employment elsewhere. And I don't know if our leaders they are deliberately doing this. Because me nobody has told me say you bro na say yen koko Ghana. So they at the porting it's yen kwine. Say be own certain say you be creating jobs some youth.
Okay, I know sir, unemployment has bedeviled several successive governments and even the present government. But 2018 budget, according to government, is going to provide more jobs. But according to minority, Ghanaians should brace themselves up for, hardship. And I think that they are being pessimistic here.
They're saying you couldn't just rubbish and say pessimistic. They are saying it based on what we are coming out from. Okay. And so also when MPP was in opposition, whatever they were saying, it is true. This country is not moving anywhere. But then when you are in power, you make sure to defend whatever your minister or whatever your sector minister will be doing. You have to fall in line and say. But in there deeply, they know say the thing is not there, it's not working. But because of party politics, you can't give your own party people up. So you have to force to defend.
I didn't say you challenge was be a company say but we are government say we should let's say expect 25% cut in electricity tariffs. Now that's good news for even industries have welcomed this.
Yes, but first and foremost, Obi any Obakasefa was sent back. Say me spending 100 million on electricity. for maybe using some kilowatts. And I say, may use the same. Now you say make you less. Papa. Me, I won't believe it.
25%.
So much I say me but me meeting me fear me but father, you sat there to say you have reduced it, you know. In my home, I don't see it there because of the way the meters are behaving. This is what I have found out.
I might say electricity charge, but it's 25%. We are not there, no. Be an meter, I say. On say. The woman and say, and yes, the Bian and go for the Dimtro, and you one that can look at the boo. When Duman to so, now yes, I won't say a woman with my day, with me and yet. But the boo almost my young man because the Siano, yet to swa, said obey you soon. Also, most of the time, your blocks in the one of Mokrana, ye go in Dumuno. But it's true. And I'm most in the Pino, so I meet us in 9 years. Okay, meet us and I use the phone and the banner 9 years. In this I don't know, yeah. That's all we are. The way I look at them, what electricity bill, so I'm meet electricity for the Abrami. I meet you as if like you are not in Ghana. How many times have you complained? More than 10 times. Imagine I do any other thing than to be frequently electricity people every day. Every weekend I do that. They've never come to even see what I'm saying. Then nobody beats me. Brother, if I tell you the bills I pay on my meter, funny.
Into your hope is after budget. It's your madam, we're friend of coming. I'll say budget reading here. It's more like we are just, you know, a ritual. We are just meeting an obligation.
Like I've told you.
It's more like
it's an obligation that you have to do. And so we are going to listen to it. And then when he is done with then we are done with it. Economy will need be. So your budget will not work.
What are your projections and expectations of the 2018 budget to be read by the finance minister later in the day? Just send us your views on our social media platforms. On Facebook is News on TV3, and on Twitter is News TV3. You can also follow the discussions here on TV3. We'll bring you up to speed information on the budget presentation. Thanks for watching.
This is what it feels like.
Welcome back to our coverage, our Media General's coverage of the budget presentation, and the expectation is that the Finance Minister will be in the House and will tell us exactly how he intends to raise money and how he is looking at spending the money too. We told you earlier that all our platforms are covering this program. Onia FM 95.1 is there in Kumasi. Akuma is following closely what's happening here. Connect FM in Takrady is doing the same. On TV3, you are watching us. You heard George Quenin and his team there talking about the budget, what they're expecting. And I'm sure you also have some issues as far as budget is concerned. And George and Crawford, budget in some near the Idiomo, petty war, Mr. Foriata. I'm saying, and
I'm saying expectation they are high, said they will kind of Crofwenia will be up a social. Now issues they affect you almost their budget in the bit to address it. And by and large, you're sharing more. Now be too dry. I see our grown forms that they're wasting Kaya. They be too dry, they be more. But quickly, young for papers make a crown from Nafi, young Kai sell more Moshe TV3, more Mutia platforms, you know, and another one member of the government communication team, Baba Kayo. But we daily guide and daily guide will share anymore. Yatro Napo Jobs ex-minister. She said disgrace. Well, a story in ABI room, but it's all about budget and paying a finance minister and phone you her budget to cut CEO salary. And daily guide a capture. I guess the CEO's and you have your money budget. Budget to cut CEO salary. And no one who can see when I say caught up was so I suffered to be president. Nana admit, but budget to cut CEO salaries. You know, Winston, what do you think?
I mean, Mentias, yes, Mampany, budget 30,000. Right now, what Mampany, a thousand of one, you earn in excess of 70,000. You have the GRA CEO earning over 88,000 and all that. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, because if we're saying, sir, let all of us begin to feel that times are indeed hard. Because you see, for the people we put in charge to serve us, they're there to serve us and they're there to make life better for us. If they don't feel the pinch, there will be no urgency to make life better for you and I. Okay, and I've said it before, and I say it again, that a lot of our people, recently I'm told that ministers to use only saloon vehicles.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. But I have said it before, that if you see a minister of state, his food is provided for him. He lives in a state-apart bungalow. He has free electricity, free water, free phone bills. He's provided food, everything. How would that person feel the pinch that you're feeling? Okay. These salaries can go in to help other sectors of the economy. And I think that it just mustn't end with CEOs. Everybody, a lot of the government officials, okay, those who are put in, they're earning in excess of 20,000. Some of them even earn more than ministers. They should reduce their salaries to, if there's anything like single spine, they should show that the president should be the highest earning person. That's what I think.
But isn't it also the fact that, Winston, CEOs are paid a certain salary just to give them that motivation to perform. In other parts of the world, a CEO's salary is tied to how he or she manages the organization. So they are earning so much because they are expected to bring in some returns. Yes, now, when the now Cocoa board chair brought in Dr. Puni's salary, and then all others were leaked, we cannot confirm if those figures we got were the exact figures. But it tells you how much they are earning. But the key question for me is not to necessarily cut CEO salaries. The key thing for me is to look at how they are performing, how the particular organization is performing, and then you fix his or her income. Because if an organization is performing well, right, and you're paying the CEO, you really wouldn't care about it.
Nana, is it okay with performance? Now the question is, are they performing? Oh, any idea was here, Bisa? Yeah, this kind of moment because at the end of the day, I was here who say output, a idea a war mile. But what share performance, now they compare Sika or Mojia, it's the same. Oh, any issue, a idea will be performing the Ebeka, of course. You deserve it. But
no matter how you perform, they don't have to earn the 75,000, 80,000 they earn. Hold on. I will tell you why. I
disagree anyway.
Because that person is giving food for free. That person is giving fuel for free. That person is in a vehicle provided for by the state. I heard Dano Hinejekum, former Cocoa Board chairman, make the flimsy argument that because somebody like Opuni Cocoa Board contributes $2 billion, my goodness. In 2011, we achieved 1 million metric tons. Under Opuni, 650,000 metric tons. Is this somebody that you pay 75,000 Ghana cedis?
Yes.
No matter what, the president earns 30,000. He's the one we have voted for. Let the president's salary be the yardstick for all CEOs.
Why should the
that is what I would want to see. I have voted for a president, and we pay the president 30,000. We pay ministers of state 18,000. We pay members of parliament a little bit lower. Let that be the determinant. I do not see the GRA CEO. Have they been able to meet their target? No. You pay him 88,000. The governor of the Bank of Ghana. Are you happy with the state of our currency?
What about?
And you pay him 88,000, and you would work under the scorching sun, hungry. What are you telling me?
Attracting that kind of skill, that kind of knowledge, that kind of expertise. Because if I have a certain skill and I know I can turn immigration service around, and I know my salary is 150,000 a month, then I want to come and grab the job. But if with that scale that can turn immigration service around, the salary is just 2,000 cedis, I won't come.
No, but it's just
so it is an attraction to get people with the skills to come and do the job.
Right, and I said it's not just about the skill. Now, skill now, when they bound the job, and at the end of the day, output net is saying, skill need to be able to me our skill.
Okay.
Yes, but skill now, when they balance, it should bring some improvement. But I disagree with Winston's president, the yardstick. Of course, what's the presidency? We are told he has exactly, Winston. But at the end of the
go into the private sector. Yeah. But I'll get back to you. My very good friend Asekwa and my very good friend Bright, the two Brights. This is Media General's coverage of the 2018 budget statement. Now we'll go and listen to expectation and from the Western region, Takrady. And so let's go for that. And when we return, we'll tell you what to expect throughout the day.
So I'm currently standing at Nkrofo Junction near Kojokrom in the Western region, where I'm going to speak to some taxi drivers around here to find out their views on last year's budget and their expectation for the upcoming budget as well. So let's quickly go to them and find out their views on last year's budget.
Most of us are working in there. About last now, now, oh good now, why now? This is also about salary. Wanted to do. You also need maybe Allah. Yeah, driving work. And that's how Ebenezer about to 2 fuel. I had yes, Uncle School. Now, if police for Solomon Hoyan, drivers are lawyer, no idea. Because as a member, Nessa, being in some random occupied private, no, I'll come on a for pair. Not our taxi driver and Uncle School, not our winning, Nimperti to be an Obama. And I say, I'm an other talk I put one and cry. What's a lot? One way and I don't know Mabel. Am I am an young time about for me and one hour about my and you talk I don't pay for your trade. No one can tell one call, one can't tell us. I talk I don't pay for
we man to budgets now about some mobile favor taxi drivers.
One more truck license insurance, no, of course, fuel, especially fuel. It's in 2 years, one by my 2. Me, you 2. Nasa abaka cham there about to fuel my this year man it is Kenya go to fuel insurance I come to muntra one time straight no abasama abasa ya man so nyanwole chian na license na come to mje munu small boy aka gene you go certificate 17 million B license B what is 17 million na 17 million ko we no whatever na bobo no be 17 million it is adam no dey man no kwada no takwa the next 2 weeks do demonstration baba takwa ya to ama no.
Last year budget to 2017 some of man paying okay in a case here wa bam za ma hena
asam wo kan de my last year Kenya umum de wa bi onye bi and de bia kan and ejuma na drive yin sma ejuma dala kan but me kan drive ejuma no this atra ma no oya de na me nti e be slab and de se fuel na de no se duty na de no se budget no be read mo wa be fom kakra and se ejuma na sure bokoda me because last year insurance mo can adina why be so onye bi nti e best sense botum what is it to budget no read mo akofom dia wetum why then asan so abede because first insurance tell me ko etum you 60 70 but in the insurance 370 akwere ntuma no so no nkaka ho na yentu adasa nti e best lab no yemebo no so about to mo abofo ma on to mo befo na so eduma no on so collect this bibia wenya fi driver so bibia wenya kona the partner the koto police entumto nti na aba no hwe nkakra na yen maso eduma ontum kwe.
Across the country. Only at 95.1 FM, 3 FM 92.7, Otie or Takra there, Connect 97.1 FM, and Akumase Akuma 87.9, as well as 3news.com. You're streaming live, Obechimi beyond the borders of our region. And Adwuma, a member of the government communication team, and I don't pay about the church Kakra, they expected in the 2018 budget. I can't say anything about church common, and I am a Thank you. All right, now I buy what you say, and you're my call.
Ebefan sa kakanka nyankopon edigana man ahye na nando dankwa akufado ensa na ohwe senia omani city a yebeto ye any challenges ana wo ho a egidi senia me ensa wo ntin kakanka na oboaye ebe
right and I'm say your team profile no kakra na expectation is like a 2017 budget no ebema Ghana for one hen omo kakra but it looks as if say more expectation or ambem. What exactly happened?
Okay, okay. So the struggle basically, and I said, who said I'm missing? Okay. It's Ocean and Norman City 2017 budget. Now, I find a ban a bem.
Meeting can say Mama for who said the first 3 months of the year now NDC had already introduced the budget for 2017. So we had to go according to that. That is how come the budget was brought into being around March of 2017. So in actual fact, whatever it is that we are dealing with is from March to today is November. So from March to November of 2017 is what the actual discussion can be about. So within such a very short time frame, what is it that the government has been able to do? Now, first of all, let's not kid ourselves. Expectations were very high, extremely high, because people felt that they had voted for hope and they were looking to get that hope. We also came into government and began to discover that things were not as were reported or as were told. Because you see, in any political planning process, what you do is that you take stock of what is available and then you use that to plan and do your manifesto. But here's the case where you came into government and you remember that we said that the energy sector debt had been discovered, which means that they were not previously sitting with us. We had to go in there and discover. We've had a long back and forth argument about what the actual debt stock were, among others. So we've done all of those things. So our plans obviously were affected by some of these challenges that we have. Till today, there's a lot of conversation about arrears that have had to be paid and have not been paid, and all these issues, we keep dabbling around it. But despite all of these constraints, the government has been able to implement free SHS, which was a major promise that the people was expecting. And believe you me, it is giving a lot of relief to families across the country. Yes, there is a challenge of it not being totally up to standard in terms of what it is that people expect. We're having infrastructure challenges, we're having issues here and there. But that's what the governance process is about. It's a conviction that this government has been able to do, and we hope that we will be able to carry it forward with all of the things. As to whether people are feeling the entirety of the effects of the policies and programs of government, I don't expect that they will be felt immediately. There's always a transition period when policies are started and when they are ended. But we'll always have to look at all of these things within that context. So within this very short period of time, I think that a lot of work has been done. A lot of work is also being done. A lot of work will be done. Those that are saying that the effects of these policies are not being felt, yes. They are still in transmission. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Before I cross over to Nanamfo, let's talk about the creation of jobs. Look at some of the major, of course, and now more target to be, but when to me achieve what went wrong.
Okay, so in terms of the creation of jobs, as already stated, there were constraints, and there were a large number of constraints. But this year's budget, I'm sure as you have heard, focuses on the creation of jobs. So we are looking at giving as many reliefs as we can to businesses and to the private sector and also to individuals to ensure that we stimulate the job creation processes in this country. Last year was more about stabilizing the economy that we came to meet. Remember that if you run a deficit of about 9.8 or thereabout, then the economy cannot grow at the rate at which you expect it to grow. The growth rate was also slowing down. You remember that from 2011, where we hit about 14-15%, it's been coming down gradually. So some basic indicators and indices were wrong. Now, you could not build a successful economy with these bases and indicators being wrong. So last year was more about concentrating on stabilizing the economy and giving ourselves a stable platform from which to spring. We believe that we've done quite a lot of it, and the numbers, the half-year numbers, will bear us out. Again, I need to state this clearly, that the discussion that is going to be held today, what we can have, the observed figures will be half-year numbers. But then, projections and others have been made, and this has been since Ghana ever became an independent country. So the observed numbers that we can actually speak to are half-year numbers. But moving forward, all of these things will be concretized. So it is not an issue of we didn't meet all targets. There were primary, issues of importance, which was getting the economy on a stable footing. So once we've been able to do that, once we've been able to ensure that inflation is coming down from 15-point-something% as at end of year last year to about 11% right now, and the other macroeconomic indicators have also stabilized. We are beginning to make progress. It is then that we can begin to commit ourselves to greater things. Let's also bear in mind that despite all of those challenges, government was able to give some tax breaks to individuals in this economy, to businesses in this economy. We abolished about, if my memory serves me right, about 14 taxes or so. And so all of these were part of reshaping the framework of the Ghanaian economy, and now we can begin to spring forth and see the changes that we want.
The 275 constituencies were expecting $1 million each. As of now, they've not received it. Are they going to receive $2 million each next year?
Now, that's an issue that we have to deal with. First of all, it's government funding. You cannot just get up and give government money like that. It was a promise in the MPP's manifesto, but the promise needed to operate within a certain framework. So it is just recently, I think about a week or so ago, that the various development authority laws was passed. And so now that they have been passed, we need to actually operationalize it and then begin to put the money in there for people to see it. So the first point I want to make is that we have, as I've said all along, we have now been able to put in place the framework for operationalizing those issues. That's the first thing. We could not have committed monies to issues that where, first of all, the legal framework didn't exist. Because then, how are you going to expend it within the rules and regulations that we have in this country for expending public funds? Now that they've been put in place, let's see how it is fleshed out, and then from there, you see the more concrete issues springing up.
Let me take you back to the issue of jobs, because the expectation is that this budget will throw out the jobs we'll be looking for. The TUC says that what government has been talking about since it took office about job creation is rhetoric. You keep telling us the job is coming, we are doing one district, one village, one. The TUC says this is all rhetoric. Now, what is it in this budget should we expect to show a more practical way of creating jobs?
So I would love to engage in this discussion of whether it is mere rhetoric or actual concrete steps are being taken after the budget has been read. Luckily, in a few hours' time, we'll be able to have listened to the entirety of the budget, so we can debate whether it is concrete steps that are being taken or rhetoric. Again, let's put all of this within a broader context. We came to meet an economy that was not very well, fairly grounded. The macroeconomic indicators, I'm sure you're very familiar with them, were showing that we had problems with the economy. The deficit was very high, inflation was rising, growth rate was decreasing, among others. So government had every intention of creating the jobs, and we have done something. But the most principal thing was giving stability. I'll give you an example of a patient that has a cut on his leg and a heart attack. When you go to the hospital, which of these will be dealt with immediately? You might want to concentrate on the heart, because if that gets out of hand, you lose the patient. And after you've gained stability with the patient's heart, and you are sure that he will continue to live and breathe, then you go on to pay attention to the bleeding wounds that it was. The economy is the principal thing within which we have to operate. And so there were issues with all of these things. Some would decide to see it as rhetoric. I know that a lot of work has been done. For example, as regards one district, one factory, I know that committees were set up in the 10 regions of this country to go around and study the projects and evaluate them, among others. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has also did an invitation for expression of interest. All of these things have been assessed. Several things have gone on, all in preparation, whilst the various mechanisms were being put in place. The one district, one factory mechanism works under a broad objective. It's something called the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, IPEP, which is headed by a minister for special development. So the structure has been put in place. These things we are talking about are not already existent. They are new. Now, when you want to do something as new as this, you first of all need to ensure that the regulatory framework is in place so that you are able to legally expend money and also put in place a framework for being able to account for whatever monies it is that you spend. If not, you have the issues where people are misusing money, accounting for monies become difficult, all of this. So we have had to do things by the right processes. That may have led to some delays in implementation, as people are talking about. But a lot of work has been done. The unfortunate thing is that with a lot of groundwork, you don't happen to see the structures there. It's about, for instance, building up, putting up a building. You have to do the foundation. It involves digging. Now you go and meet a flat ground. Then you actually have to dig and go down and start pouring concrete down there, which nobody then begins to see those work, particularly if it is fenced. But once the foundation is built, the structure keeps coming up.
But what about your critics who say that, well, if government is unable to raise that revenue, and of course you agree that government is struggling to meet its targets in the first 2 quarters. We're told that even the third quarter is not too exciting to talk about. Now, you're promising the jobs, You need the revenue to promise the jobs, to create the jobs you're talking about. Can we rely on those promises? I guess that is what the TUC says. It's been rhetoric so far, because once you're not raising revenue, then the jobs become a difficult thing to do. If government isn't getting the revenue, how does it create the jobs?
Okay, now this discussion of revenue, again, I want us to put it within a context. In the 2016 year, for instance, we're off our revenue target by about 10%, roughly, give or take. I'll need to refer to these figures, but I remember it was somewhere in the region of 10%. Ghana survived. Now, in this present year...
But in very difficult conditions, you know.
Well, we ran a deficit as a result of that, close to 9.8%. The finance minister is coming to give us the budget today. Let's be able to compare. We will be able to compare our thoughts as to whether, despite these challenges that we are seeing, we have been able to do as bad as was done in 2016. The point I'm trying to make is, yes, we agree that there are significant challenges in revenue collection, but we've deployed solutions to these challenges.
The solutions haven't helped, because then what you did was to cut down on expenditure, and that is why the economy is stagnating instead of growing. That's the argument of some watchers.
Those watchers, I'll encourage them to take a closer look at their figures again, because the economy is in no way stagnating. Those are facts. The economy is in no way stagnating. The first half of the year represents a significant growth in this economy, so it is in no way stagnating. But even that aside, the solutions have not been just to reduce expenditures. No. We've deployed technology, as we have said. The paperless system came on board to ensure that, revenues at the port were being adequately catered for. Now we'll have to tighten our compliance measures, among others, to ensure that we're actually raking in more revenue. For us, the major plank of our work in this economy will be that we are shifting from taxation to production. Now, today we are saying that we are going to give a lot of these measures to stimulate production. Now, whilst production is being stimulated, you expect that more activities will come, and these activities will be taxed, and so there will be an increase in revenue. The only other problem then would be to ensure that all of these monies that are coming and all of these taxes that we have to collect are collected adequately, which is why the Deputy Finance Minister yesterday made it very clear that we are going to deploy technology to ensure that we are able to get that which we have. Again, the point is, yes, there were revenue shortfalls, but it's not as bad as some people want to make it look. That's the first one. Secondly, despite all of these things, solutions have been deployed. I would once again remind you that when solutions are deployed, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for transmission. Paperless, however, was very quick and efficient in terms of the numbers shooting up adequately. Year on year, averagely, you increase revenue collection from the previous year between 20 to 25% year on year. This year, the revenue target was increased by about 35% from last year.
Even though it fell short of the target. That's
no, I'm saying that the targets that were done year on year, every year.
All right. The projections.
Yeah, the projections are increased by about 20 to 25% year on year. This year, we increased it by over 35% as targets. And from all indications, we are going to fall short by just about 5%. So really, when you look at it, despite the incremental jump in the target, there has been a shortfall, yes, we agree, but if you look at it normally, within these things, by nominal rates among others, it's been an exceptional job that has been done. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the folks at Ghana Revenue Authority. It's been a very tough year, I know, particularly for some custom officers, among others, but then we've pulled through in all of these things. We are now beginning to see the effects of the new policies that have come. There are difficulties here and there, but let's continue to work. It will help us all.
Just a quick one. I'm interested to find out, beyond the tax that we collect, are there any sources of funding for the 2018 budget that you know?
Again, these questions you're asking me, we'll have the Minister of Finance in a few hours will go before the House of Parliament and address all of these matters adequately. He will tell you what he plans to spend, where he's going to get the funding from, and how he's going to account and all of those things.
We're told he's asking for about 61 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes,
that's we know.
Yes.
But
so
what we don't know is where the money comes from.
So I get the excitement coming from the media that you always want information ahead of time.
Exactly.
What I would therefore say is, let's just wait. In about a few hours, just a few hours, he'll come to the House himself. All of these matters will be addressed, and afterwards, we can happily engage in discussions as to whether it is adequate or is inadequate or whatever. What I can, however, say is that this year, the Ministry of Finance is being more moderate in expectations. is being more moderate in expectations. If you remember, last year I think a total of somewhere upwards of 50 billion was what he sought. This year we are moving to about 61 billion thereabouts. So he will explain all of these details and then give you the plan
right
thereafter.
But even before, look, the Heritage newspaper this morning reported that some economists are suggesting that the president was wrong in hinting of a reduction in electricity tariffs in the budget. That's what they're saying. That's the headline. Now, you are insisting that let's wait for the finance minister, but some of these economists are suggesting that what the president did wasn't right. What do you think?
Well,
given snippets of the budget even before it is read.
It's always an issue of opinion, but I don't think that legally the president has done anything wrong. Let's establish that basis. And so it's a question of opinion. This morning you have tried to get as much as you can out of me, and sometimes in some of these circumstances, it's an issue of opinion. Some persons might be of the conviction that because I have not given as much as you have asked, I am wrong. Others may be of the opinion that I have done the right thing. Others may be of the opinion that I'm practically a useless guest on this program because I have not been able to give you all the information that you want. So these are matters of opinion. I would have loved to know the reasons why. Because the president, he's the president of the Republic of Ghana. We voted for him. He's the one that bears ultimate responsibility for all of this. And I do not think that he will, sacrifice his integrity on making statements that have not been confirmed or affirmed by his management team. That's cabinet. Right. And so I personally, from where I sit, I don't see anything wrong with what the president did. I would, however, want to listen to the reasons that these economists are given for saying that the president was wrong.
Let me take you back to
the floodlights are quite active.
You'll be fine. The Assembly's issue about where the money is coming from. The minority is suggesting that one of the sources will be taxing mobile money. Is it true?
Well, I can say that that was a preemptive strike that they sought to do, but I don't think that it's in the budget.
Okay.
I don't think that it's in the budget
mobile
at all.
Money wouldn't be taxed.
Well, I don't think that's in the budget. That's what I'll say for now. And luckily, in a few...
But that implies mobile money will not be taxed.
Well, the point I'm making is that I don't think that is in the budget.
Would you be surprised if you find it in the budget?
I'll repeat myself, that I don't think that is in the budget. In a few hours, we'll deal with all of these issues. My problem, however...
Even before you go that, the GRA is trying to widen the tax net. Don't you think that now we can say that almost every Ghanaian is using the mobile money services? Now, in GRA's attempt at widening the tax net, isn't it a very good avenue to rake in some revenue?
So that's a discussion that the minority have introduced as to, indirectly, of course, as to whether we should begin to tax mobile money or not. For today, we are going to be dealing with Budget 2018 and what the content of the Budget 2018 is. I'm very happy, and I think that government will be very happy to engage in a discussion as to whether taxing mobile money is a good initiative or not. But that is a discussion that we can set up a platform for and engage in. For today, our major issue is 2018 budget. What is in there and what is not in there.
That includes finding the sources of the money to spend.
So government,
the mobile money taxation is one of them.
So government has been able to do a lot of work, and it has prepared a document that tells you how much it wants to spend, where it wants to spend those funds, and where they are going to get that money from. And in a few hours' time, the minister will be here to make that presentation to all of us. I am saying that the discussion on mobile money and whether we should tax...
I have an opinion that if GRA is talking about widening the tax net, mobile money should be one of the sources they should look at.
And I may or may not agree with you on that opinion. But again, I want to say that that's a discussion we can have on another platform as citizens of the Republic. That, well, we are of the opinion that we need more money. And surprisingly, I have been shocked to see that the general sentiment of the people of Ghana has been that, well, government should perhaps take more initiatives to tax us a little bit more. And that's a marked difference from the previous years, where the finance minister, Mr. Setekwe, had to come out and say that indeed Ghanaians have been overtaxed. Now we abolish some taxes, we've made some changes, and now Ghanaians are saying that, well, we've seen a number of initiatives that this government has done, which we think are good, which we think are credible, and so we ourselves are willing to engage in that discussion of avenues in which we can give government more money. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Right. But I am saying that perhaps we should have that discussion after today's budget has been read. Let's create a platform. Let's engage the people. I mean, your network can give that up.
Right.
I'll try my best to see what we can do, and then we can engage in that discussion. But for today's budget purposes, what I'm saying is I don't think that mobile money. But what even worries me more is the posture of the minority. Even before the budget has been read, there's this attempt to lead the budget presentation with their sentiments and with their opinions. And I find that to be very troublesome. What I feel we should be doing as a nation is engaging in discussions about how we are going to develop this country. But if even before a budget is read, you put out opinions seeking to slant it, and today we would be able to know whether the suggestions they made are in the budget or not. And for me, the critical point is it will speak to the credibility of the minority. For me, and I want us all to bear that in mind, that this will speak to the credibility of the minority, because they have put everything on the line by saying that they have intelligence to the effect that we are going to tax mobile money. So we are going to listen to the finance minister. If indeed it comes up, fine, fair enough, good enough for them. If it doesn't come up, then we all know where they stand in terms of the allegations that they ceaselessly make. Every day there's one allegation or the other coming up from the minority that government is engaging in one thing or the other. It is also interesting to note that from the last budget that was read till now, a lot of issues that came up from the minority, none of them has resulted in anything positive. If you remember, there was this accusation that the capping that was being introduced was illegal, and so they were going to go to the Supreme Court. Right. Till today, nothing has happened. There are a lot of allegations that have come from the minority throughout the course of the year. Till today, not one thing has resulted from any of these things. Yet still, they always try to create this impression of fear and panic within the general population. And I don't see why they are seeking to do that. Right. I honestly don't.
All right, and so we will let you in more on what's happening here in Parliament. It's our special coverage of the budget presentation. As you heard Nana Damwa saying there, soon we'll see the Finance Minister on the floor of Parliament, and his job is to ask for money and tell us how he intends to spend the money. But the expectations are great, and all sectors of the economy asking for one thing or the other in the budget. Let's quickly go and listen to a coconut vendor who has been talking about what he wants the budget to do for him as far as his economy is concerned.
In the build-up to the budget presentation by the Finance Minister, the Honourable Ken Ofori-Atta, we're getting onto the streets and finding out exactly how, within the 11-month period of the implementation of this particular 2017 budget, how it has impacted on foodstuff especially, and also how people like him have been experienced, been affected by the changes in the economy over the period of analysis. And we're going to speak Chi just for the sake of convenience. But as I said, now,
okay, Baku say is 2 cedi 50 pesos.
2 cedis 50 pesos. Now, from January, no, na moton is
okay, from January going in near ton 2 cedis.
Moton 2 cedis. 2 cedis. That means I must start to some increasing into 2 cedis 50 pesos.
Okay, if I say at least 4 months, that will. If I buy 4 months, near start to see a ton.
Now, I didn't see that more increasing.
Okay, price no more the bread. How much to price no more the my no so. I cried my intelligence very gratis.
So essentially, what he's saying is that from the beginning of this year, January, one coconut was selling at 2 cedis. But now it's selling as 2 cedis 50 pesos. Reason is that the people who supply them with the coconut from the villages have increased the unit price of the coconut as well. So that has had to affect the selling price that they sell to us, the consumers. Now, in a business, the same. Generally,
business is normal. Kankra,
a day to me in Yazing.
Okay, they to me at least 30 to 40 Ghana.
30 to 40 Ghana. And then a year profit on your was.
Profit mo but met it senior ma be film. We say rubber metal because bigger mo ko 2 ball and go majim sika shibaro ni na me high intimate ni na film.
And also rubber and any man out so and also a cost from the beginning of this year.
Oh no, the same price now and cost room.
So what he's saying is that the other things that also are taken into consideration in determining the price of this coconut has remained stable. For example, the rubber that he uses and the places that he dumps the waste that he generates as a result of the selling the coconut, all the prices have remained the same. But then it's a unit price that has gone up. So it's giving me 1 coconut, and obviously I'm going to have to pay 2 cedis 50 pesos for this one.
So that right. The expectations are great. A lot more of society, the sectors of the economy are asking one thing or the other. Mr. Oforiatta has a huge job this morning, and the hope is that his expectations or the expectations of various sectors of the economy will be met this morning. But that's not all. The U.S. ambassador to Ghana has been talking about the upcoming budget, also looking at how to push Ghana's economy to the level that we will get. But Asampa, quickly, I'm saying, for expectations, you know, more than.
Basically, budget is affecting because rubber near the motor near asset now. Could be a 2 cedi 50 pesos. Not just ABA, your coin, could be 3 cedis. Not just a quano, you know. And a bonus budget and I affect Obia, a tomato salad or toton cocoa near the Obia Begani dear, I care for. But another more with the 2018 budget, you know. And then I'll be catching for example, coconut seller,
2018 budget, what we're doing is we're taking stock of what happened in 2017. And even though we are able to do quite a lot of work, we also are cognizant of the fact that not everything has been done. And so it's as though we are driving to a certain location. As you're moving along, things happen. And so you, at a point, have to take a stop and look at where you are and where you wanted to be and make those corrections and then make the projections as to how you are going to go to ensure that you get to your desired destination. What this government has always intended to do is to ensure that Ghana industrializes. We are able to transform the very basis of our economy from the Gaggisberg economy, as we have termed it, into an industrialized economy. That is what we are seeking to do. The biggest threat that faces this economy today is jobs. And so in this 2018 budget, we are going to significantly make moves, put in place programs and policies that will ensure that we get closer to attaining those objectives. It is one that has been carefully thought through, taking into consideration our history as a country, taking into consideration the developments over the last year in particular, and fashioned out policies to ensure that we get to that destination. It's been termed the Adwuma budget. There's always a great temptation to go into the details of, and this is going to happen, and that is going to happen, among others. But the real issue is that we need to, we need to be disciplined enough.
There's a lot of work has been done. So Adwuma
not that a lot of work has been done. The Adwuma budget, because we are seeking to create jobs.
Oh, okay.
I think that this budget should have been termed the jobs budget.
Okay, then even before you go on, you mentioned the issue of the Gaggisberg economy, which the president himself has said when he was inaugurated that the only way to turn this country's economy around is to shift from the Gaggisberg economy we knew when we were in class 2. For me, then we were talking about cocoa, timber, gold, which we are selling out raw. Now we're talking about a takeoff. These things are still the way they are. Our cocoa is still where it is. The timber is there. The gold is there. So when you put that side by side, the fact that the economy is improving, and yet that Gaggisberg economy is still there, it's a bit difficult to reconcile the two.
Well, the point is that changes of this magnitude, changes of this sort, do not happen within 6 months or within 1 year. I remember once upon a time, His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, made a statement that he needs about 10 years to develop Ghana. It degenerated into a political discussion of it is not even possible for him to have 10 years among others. But what the point he was seeking to make is that we need a period of time within our history as a country where we pursue aggressively the objective of industrializing this economy.
To change that economy.
To change something that has existed from 1925, thereabouts till now, it takes a lot of work.
But that's why if we don't change it, we can't move on.
That's why we are introducing one district, one factory.
But he said if we can't change it, we can't move on. So and now today he's saying that we are moving on when we haven't done the change.
The fact that he says we are moving on is because we are making the changes. That's the point. We are making the changes. It's an ongoing process. Government is at work. Okay. We are talking about one district, one factory. The framework and all of that has been set up. We're talking about one village, one dam. We're talking about all the other promises that have been made. And a lot of work has been done, is being done, and will continue to be done to ensure that the objective, which is an industrialized economy for Ghana, is achieved. That is why we are saying that, well, it's a work in progress. People may say they have seen some. For example, one of the greatest benefits that everybody has seen in this year is a free SHS program. You may argue that there are challenges among others, but it is clear that families that hitherto may not have been able to send their wards to secondary school because of the costs involved have now been able to send their children to school. What is it that the MPP government is trying to do that the NDC minority is opposed to? That's the discussion I want to have, and if you give me 3 minutes. We are of a certain conviction, of a certain ideological understanding and underpinning that everybody deserves a certain basic line from which you will allow then the individuals, based on his talents, based on his abilities, to be able to compete for all of us to see what is in there for him. So what we do is to give a certain basic safety net. Because you are born a Ghanaian, you should be able to enjoy healthcare up to a certain point. So national health insurance was introduced. Because you are born a Ghanaian, you should be able to have access to education. So capitation grant was introduced. But we realized that even after the broad introductions of these things, there were still challenges therein. So some children were still not able to go to school because if you go to school, you come back and see what you eat. So we had to provide school feeding to ensure that those children that went to school were able to, at least for the period that they were in school, have something to eat. All of these things were aimed at improving enrollment. We also realized that schools are not everywhere as we would want it to be. Some children had to travel long distances to go to school. So children in school uniform could use the Metro Mass buses for transportation for free. We also realized that there are challenges in terms of transportation, particularly within rural Ghana. So Metro Mass Transit was introduced. The point I'm trying to make is that for the first 8 years of the MPP's administration, certain safety nets, certain measures were deployed to ensure that value is added to basic citizenship. Now we are saying that those values that were added, yes, it was good enough, but we need to improve them. Our basic agenda is that for an industrialized economy, the people need to be able to take care or to be able to access the jobs that it will throw up. Now, a 15-year-old child who has just left basic school is not emotionally matured enough to be able to work within these quarters. And we believe that if we are able to improve the human capital of this country by ensuring that at least every Ghanaian child has access to education to the secondary school level, it will help us to be able to, get these Ghanaians to take up those jobs that will be thrown up.
So it forms part of the whole process to change the face of Ghanaian economy.
So that's the point I'm trying to make is that all of these interventions are part of a bigger plan to ensure that, first of all, the Ghanaian economy changes and changes drastically. Okay. And two, that all of us gets the benefits of that changed economy that we intend to see. So we've deployed the Ghana digital addressing system, the Ghana Post GPS. Some persons do not understand it and are raising issues. But it will amaze you how in a few months' time, that deployment that was done will, together with other deployments, help us to reduce the cost of credit in this country.
I see. grateful. None of them were talking there. All right. And a lot more of these conversations will go on. But as sometimes you go so a change.
Exactly. Because the Kaiser Emra, finance minister, presented a simple budget. And the Okwa no money at or more boss. And Emra me faho at least or more minimum. Almost you or more papa. Now 2018 budget. I be signed this as Syria now or Munyaye with the 2017 budget presentation at the Beba.
Okay, now again, I'll raise this issue that there's always a process of transmission that starts from a certain point and ends at a certain point. So with the Bosokan issues, for instance, you may know that Ghana is now implementing a joint tariff, West African Tariff Initiative. So the government had a clear initiative that we're going to ensure that taxes were abolished. But there was a process that had to lead to that the implementation of that policy. We failed to recognize. No, we didn't fail to recognize. Government clearly said this is what we are going to do. Now that we've given it as an objective that this is what we have to do, there's a process we have to go through. So first of all work starts from planning. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So government gave a clear indication that this is what we are going to do. After we gave that indication, then we engaged the necessary procedures to ensure that the objective we sought was done. It's the same thing that applies here. So there may be complaints that yes, they were not rolled out immediately. But if it was possible for it to be rolled out immediately, then the finance minister perhaps would have to read his statement today, and within 2 or 3 weeks' time, everything should be implemented. But we are dealing with human beings. There are changes in the system. There are resistances in the system. And even after all these changes have been done, you need to keep going back to look at how it is being implemented and what your objectives are to ensure that you reach those objectives.
So, Nana, at the end of the day, your Tiaboso kind of expect to say, Dabeng, and Sassi, Ebema. Dabeng. The question is, Dabeng. And then they solve it. So, your Munshani will say, Dabeng, and Ebema.
So, as I've stated clearly, these policies have been put in place. They have been rolled out. Sometimes there are some policies that you roll out and then you realize, okay, there's a challenge that was not envisaged among them. It is coming. It is here. The change that you voted for, clearly, I'm telling you that today, we're having Ghanaians who are now saying, look, if government wants to tax us a little bit more, we're up for it. A few days ago, the talk was about government is taxing us too much. So those changes are coming. Yes, not everybody has seen it, but at least in this one example I've given you, you can see that the change is occurring, it is happening, and they will see theirs very soon.
Right.
Now, we're grateful. We'll go back to our studios at the Zimbabwe. With the University of Ghana Business School, is going to talk to Alfred Okanse. What to look out for in the budget, what the expectation to be, and how the finance minister will address us this morning. Alfred is ready with Dr. Lord Mensah.
Thank you, Bright. Grateful there. Now, we're still continuing this live coverage of the budget presentation, 2018 fiscal document and economic policy by the with this particular administration, and we have three strong men there. Remember, we're live on 3FM, we're live also on Connect FM in Takoradi, on Akoma FM, also in Kumasi, and on Onua FM here in Accra, and we're live here on TV3, all across the world on 3news.com. We're going to go on to Skype now, and Dr. Lord Mensah is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, specifically the Finance Department. Doc, I am going to get to him very shortly to find out his thoughts on this particular issue and expectations of the budget as we go on. But just so you know that you can join us with your views, your thoughts, and your opinions. Doc joins us back on Skype. Dr. Lord Mensah, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning. Now, I want to find out from you, first of all, your analysis of the 11 months, how the government policy has responded. I mean, the economy has responded to the various government policies implemented. I'm going to get back to him very shortly. Doc, can you hear me now? Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Alfred. I can hear you clearly.
Great. I'd want to thank you very much for your time this morning. What will be your analysis of the 11 months of this particular administration and the implementation of the 2017 budget up until now?
Well, basically, I realized that it is a budget that wasn't supposed to hype so many things.
We saw a government that was in the opposition, and in the end, more or less, they introduced so many.
Okay, so we'll continue with that very shortly, but Dr. Lord Mensah is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, joining us via Skype with his thoughts and analysis of how the economy has responded to government policies over the period. Remember, there's some 61 billion Ghana cedis the finance minister is expected to ask.
Hello?
Yes, Doc, the connection was interrupted. You were making a point, sir.
Yes, what I was driving to is that we had a government that came to power, took over, and then having been at that embryonic stage, you could have assessed the economy very well. Come out with some thing. I would say that it was a budget that was not owned by the sort of budget that was quite contradictory in the sense that you outlined several programs, but then reduce the revenue that will help you to achieve some of this program. Now, let's take, for instance, a program like One District, One Factory, a program like One Constituency, $1 million. Now, if you cut down your revenue as a result of reducing taxes here and there. How I see this is that it was supposed to be a budget that will lay the foundation for all these flagship programs. But then the way it was packaged to Ghanaians, it came out as if all the flagship programs come in place within the fiscal year. And for me, that is quite deceiving. And I would say that going forward, the administration should learn how to package, their budget. Now, we should have seen a budget that will lay the foundation. And for me, I think for now, I could see that cricketers are showing a good foundation. Because interest rate has come down. Treasury bill, which signaled the appetite of borrowing locally by the government, has also come down. So in a way, it gives a good signal that the macroeconomic front is okay. But then how it will transform into people's pocket is what we are looking out for in this budget.
Fantastic. Now, there's been some projections into the 2018 budget and how the government should rather move into transformation. Now, there's been some indicators about tariff reductions, a lot more tax cuts, but some have questioned that position of promising a lot more tax cuts, especially when revenue mobilization has been one of the major challenges of this administration within the 2017 fiscal year. Would you advise that we go on with the tax cuts when we struggled with revenue mobilization within the year under review?
You see, Alfred, every economy goes through cycle. And I always say that the cycle that Ghanaian economy finds itself is not a cycle that, the state that Ghanaian economy finds itself is not a state to cut taxes here and there. Because we need the taxes to put the fundamentals right so that in the end, the economy can take off by the private man. Now, let me show you a secret. If you reduce your taxes, it means you end up going to borrow because the sources of revenue, the chunk of them is clustered in taxes. So if it turns up that you are going to cut taxes here and there, you end up, borrowing. And if you try to borrow, that means you're competing for funds in the economy. And everybody is sure of what? Government. So they will end up what? Diverting their investment to government by buying treasury bills here and there. So I presume that cutting taxes won't help our economy as we speak now. As we speak now, the government needs a revenue to build roads. The government needs revenue to build silos. The government needs revenue to build schools. And in the end, we expect that all these essentials.
Fantastic. Right. I'm going to get back to Dr. Lord Mensah, but he's been making the point about how the economy is responding to some of these interventions by government. As you recall, a lot of the, in fact, the three major indicators of that influences of interest rates has gone down. We're talking about the policy rate, inflation, and also government's decision to go out of the short-term bond market, to be borrowing from the long-term bond market, to free up the short-term bond market so that the private sector can be able to borrow from the short-term bonds market. Now, the banks have not responded in corresponding manner because interest rates have not been going down that much in that same level of correspondence as the policy rate has reduced over the period. Now, many have questioned why the banks have been adamant in reducing their interest rates at the same margin as compared to how the various influences of interest rates have gone down. But the banks have been hitting back with an explanation about operational costs and other related factors, the non-performing loans that are still very high, that government is trying to raise the bonds to clear the energy debt that is sitting on the books of many banks in this country, crippling their account. So we're going to look at how the economy will pan out or will play out now that we do know that that's part of the bond, that particle of the debt will be cleared by the bonds that were also released just about 3 weeks ago. Although that target was not reached, there's been some issues that were raised by it. I'm going to stay with this a bit further because there's been a lot more analysis going into it with those who have also raised the concern that the debt that we're talking about has ballooned with an additional 1 billion Ghana cedis. Now, Doc, I'm going to round up with you if you can hear me now. So for you, what are your expectations of this particular 2018 budget that is going to be presented by the finance minister in the next few hours, all other things being equal?
Well, if you ask me, I would say the government, the current administration needs to own this budget. I see the previous budget to be a budget that was more or less politically hyped. So the budget was making more political sense. It wasn't economically sensible. So we expect that this budget, the government will own this budget by not necessarily promising or unnecessarily. Expenditure should be cut, and revenue we should find and at the end we should see an allocation purposely to ensure that government diversify its revenue. At the same time, systems in place to rope in the informal sector into the tax net so that we can increase our revenue base. Please, because if we are not able to do that, trust me, all the things we promise, calling out huge expenditures here and there, I don't think we'll be able to meet them as it happened in the last budget.
Dr. Lord Mensah, I'm grateful for your time this evening. Thank you very much. This morning, Dr. Lord Mensah is an economist, actually, with the University of Ghana Business School, joining us via Skype this morning. And let's let you know quickly that he is the longest-running presidential candidate in the country. He believes, although President Akufo-Addo had hinted of giving him an ambassadorial position, he did want a full confirmation before officially informing his political party. I'm talking about Edward Nasigri Mahama. He is our guest on 20 by 20 this Saturday. We're going to take a listen to a brief of what to expect with 20 by 20, and then we'll get back to Skype where Kojo Poku is an energy expert who will be joining us with his thoughts and analysis of the 25% tariff cut that we've been told to expect for industry.
Talking about broader consultation, did you consult your party members before becoming ambassador at large? Your NEC?
Not NEC. I talked to some people in the party because basically when the president mentioned it, it was, oh, I will do this. And you know, some people have sometimes said, I will do this, and they don't do it. So basically, I wanted it to be firmed up, because I know he also had to talk to his people. In the case of becoming a vice president, that means that you are now completely in this team.
Great.
In the case of an ambassador, it is not the same thing.
Yeah, but if the president is you say is an honest man, why did you have doubts and were waiting?
No, he's not doing everything he wants to do, because he has cabinet, he has other people he has to consult. And if he decides not to do what he was telling me he will do, it didn't mean that
you didn't believe him when he said it? Mm-hmm. Did you believe him when he told you that initially, that he was going to make you ambassador at large?
I believe he had it in his heart that we should work together. I believe that. I knew his heart. He really wanted me. He knew my heart. I really want to come. But the larger group was the problem. So basically, these things do happen. Even up till now, I know President Kufuor has an affection for me. I have an affection for him. And I could have worked with him if the larger group would have understood it. But his party said, we tried it and it didn't work. We ended up beating one another. We're not going to go through that. And I said, if that doesn't happen, I can't come. So we understood one another.
Some accuse you of being against Malam Issa accepting that position, and hence your decision not to inform them because you feared the same thing was going to be done to you.
Oh, Malam Issa, I'm not against him. After all, I brought him into the party. So I'm not against him. But I gave him counsel and he didn't take it.
What was that counsel?
And he ended up in jail.
What was the counsel you gave him?
For example, when he lost the money, quote unquote, lost the money and came, I was given a call from the presidency that this problem had come up with him and I should tell him they're going to let him stay away and then they will see what they can do. So I asked Malam Issa, please don't say anything. But he didn't listen. He was on every radio station giving interviews. First he agreed, then he backed off. And even when he was dragged to court, I suggested a lawyer for him, a lawyer that was a PNC sympathizer, and he fired the lawyer in court. So basically, Malam Issa's case is different from what is going on now.
You didn't have a problem with him accepting the position in the first place?
No. We told President Kufuor that if he has a position to give to the party, he should give it to the party. The party will decide who comes.
Did he do that?
No. I'm glad that you are celebrating your 20th anniversary now. I won't be there, but I hope my children's children will be there when you are 100 years old. But my wish for TV3 is that it will become either the Al Jazeera or the CNN for Africa.
Thank you, Dr. Edward Mahama there. And you just, cut the full version of this 20 by 20 exclusive interview with the ambassador at large, Dr. Edward Mahama, on Saturday at 1 p.m. on TV3. So stay with us here. And there's a lot coming up this morning. We're continuing with the focus on the 2018 budget, which, all other things being equal, will be presented by the Finance Minister, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, in Parliament to the hearing of all Ghanaians right here as we bring you the coverage of it. Remember, we have a team in Parliament who are also engaging the members of Parliament, the ministers of state, and other policy analysts who will go into Parliament also to hear what the Finance Minister will say. I've been engaging some persons also via Skype at this morning. And we're going to continue with that. If you recall, there's been indications that 25% reduction on electricity tariffs is what industry especially should be expecting. The Association of Ghana Industries is extremely happy about this because this is what they have been pushing for a very long time, because domestic users are being subsidized while industry still bears a lot more of electricity costs. They've been really under very, very heavy electricity tariffs, and that's what they have been talking about. But some energy experts have questioned whether this is feasible or not, this particular 20%, 25% tax cut, that's a tariff reduction in electricity for industry. Kojo Poku is an energy expert. He joins me on Skype now this morning to share his thoughts on this. Kojo, thank you. Good morning to you.
Good morning and good morning to your viewers.
This is one of the few mornings I get to wake you up because obviously the Finance Minister is going to be telling us.
Anything for TV3, I'm just hoping that my hamper will come this Christmas.
It's going to come with a lot of goodies, with everything in 20 folds because we're celebrating 20 years. But some persons have cautioned government not to be too overly ambitious on its expectations of oil revenue because of what's happening on the world market. Now, you do know that the revenue from the oil sector is one that government relies on a lot to also finance development. Would you share in that caution that we should be very, very cautious? in this?
Yeah, very much so, because you see, unless you cannot build a budget on assumptions, and you cannot build a budget on factors that you don't control. You see, one of the biggest problems going into this budget that the government has to basically show that it can overcome is revenue. And I've been saying that, us as citizens, our obligation to government is to pay taxes, and government's obligation is to use those taxes for the good of the nation, do infrastructure and do all the things the government wants to do. Now, this government has not shown us that either is for austerity or it's for spending and spending and spending. No government, unless you came in and have so much money there, then you can go on a spending spree. Now, anytime a government comes in and tell us that it doesn't have a lot of physical room to basically operate because there are high interest debt to pay, there are hard loans, budget deficit is high, and you want to now make sure this works well, one of the areas that you go for is increase revenue and practice some level of austerity. We didn't see any austerity in the last budget. Now, the government has to show us in this budget that it has ways of raising revenue. Now, oil revenues is good to rely on, but there is down and ups on that revenue stream. If oil goes up to $65 to $70, as we all expect it to do going next year, then government will get more money. But guess what? There's a downfall to that. It means that everything that you plan against in the country also go off balance, because there'll be increases in petroleum products, there will be increases in a lot of things that you do that will now cause inflation to also inch up. So it's a really tricky balance. So I wouldn't expect the government to hinge all its bet on oil revenues.
So that's analysis which I'm going to draw in now. So with the projections that I read, for example, on what OPEC has been projecting and what Bloomberg analysts have been talking about, the $65 a barrel of crude oil is what we're projecting in the next year. That is going to be good advantage for government, because then revenue is going to come in. But then for the consumer or the ordinary Ghanaian, what is going to happen is that we're going to have to pay more for petroleum products. And that means that it would influence every other thing, because what we do know in this country is that when prices of petroleum products are increased, it affects every other thing on the market. And that also has a possibility of influencing inflation, which tends to also impact on economic growth negatively. Could you?
Yes, that's 100% right. And also, the only thing, you see, again, we go back to the revenue aspect. In the price build-up for petroleum products, there is a stabilization levy, okay? So government can say, okay, if prices go up to $65, because I want everything to be stable in the country, I'm going to use the stabilization levy to subsidize the increase and stabilize the food prices to be as where it is. But what that means is that it now decreases the revenue available to government. Bear in mind, as long as the government is not using the stabilization levy to stabilize the industry, we all assume it's spending it to do other things. So yes, the other option is that even if prices go up to 65, 70, the government within the next fiscal year can use the stabilization levy to stabilize the fuel prices in the country, so that we don't see the inflation and all the other factors having a dominoes effect in the economy. But the problem you would have is that the money that we receive from oil revenue is tight. It's not that much when you think of it. And we now have the free SHS that we've been told that it will be financed by the oil revenue. Also, we only have 1 year of free SHS this year. Now, going into 2018, we're going to have 2 years. So we're going to have 2 batches of free SHS going into the secondary school education. So it means government has to find twice the money. So it is a difficult task for this government, especially when it keeps promising spend, 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 and reducing taxes without telling us where he's going to get his revenue from.
Well, we have to expect some 61 billion Ghana cedis. That's what we're told that the finance minister will be asking for the parliament to approve. And out of that, we're hearing some 1.2 billion would be used to finance free SHS in the ensuing year? Because just as you said, we would have 2 years now, because now it's just the first year students. Next year, there's going to be another new entrance into SHS, and they're going to enjoy free SHS. So the first years and the second years would have to have their expenses footed for by government. Now, let's move on to one aspect that you spoke about. The Association of Ghana Industries says that this 25% tariff reduction that government has hinted is good news. It's a good way to start. But for you, you'll say that we shouldn't go into areas that we do not control, could you?
Yes, we don't, because you see, look, if you do increase, if you do decrease the prices for electricity, it's only one factor that propagates industry. What if you decrease the electricity bill and interest rates stay as it is? Now, if you ask industry, in the previous years, what industries wanted was stable and reliable electricity. Okay? Now they have stable and reliable electricity. If you do not keep the investment in that sector and you rush to reduce the prices in the sector, and then we go back to the previous problem of doomsday, then industry will not have reliable and stable electricity. We've been told in the past that industry is prepared to pay more as long as the power is stable. Now the power is stable, they want a reduction. Well, rightfully so. Why not? Anybody wants a little bit if you want to now increase production. But the assumption that you're going to get industrialization, increase in production by just reducing electricity bill is not true, because there are other factors that goes into these companies. No, the biggest problem that you will get, if interest rate does not come down, you can increase electricity, you can decrease electricity bill all you want. Well, what the person is using for the production is money. He's paying 30% APR on the money that he's going to use. So he can't borrow, because if he borrows and increase production, he's going to have to pay more. So yes, it's good for AGI to want a decrease of the electricity bill, but the president in his speech to AGI said that we should expect a lot of goodies. Now, I would expect that goodies would include measures that allow interest rate to also come down. So if you have low electricity tariffs, so low energy bill, the lower interest rate, then those two will now be a good catalyst for industry to now doing more. By just doing one, I don't think it's going to cut it. And the only options available to government is either to now decrease the taxes, which is the VAT, NHIL, and the service charge which they charge. The energy charge, which is what the IPPs charge ECG, they can touch that, because that is what the input is. So only option available to government in this budget, and I'm expecting to see what the Honorable Finance Minister is going to say, is a reduction in taxes, which is either the VAT, the NHIL, or the service charge which the government takes on industry. Either that, maybe they could now go to say that the hydro, which is much cheaper, doing something like 3 cents per kilowatt hour, should be allocated to industries. So if you have to the industry, then what that happens.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Kojo?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, if you now allocate the hydro, which is the Pong and Akosombo, to industry, what that now happens is that you can now take away the energy cost, because then now hydro is cheaper. If industry just uses the hydro part of the generation, then they can now afford to pay more. But the problem with that long term is that if there is no water in Akosombo or Pong, then government will have to subsidize. And that's where the problem comes in. There's no money.
There's no money. That's really what the reality is. Kojo, thank you very much for your analysis this morning, and I'm very grateful for your time. And I know you're going to be listening to the Finance Minister, so I'm going to come back to you again for your analysis after the Finance Minister presents the budget. I'm grateful. Great. Kojo Poko is an energy expert joining us this morning with his thoughts, the pre-budget analysis. Remember, it's a live coverage of the 2018 budget presentation by the Finance Minister, Kenneth Foriata. All other things being in the next few hours is going to be in Parliament. We have a team, a crack team in Parliament, who are also continuing with the coverage there as well. We'll be back after this break with some more. To stay.
Well, thanks so much for staying there for us. This is Media General's continuous coverage of the presentation of the 2018 budget. You're watching us live on TV3. You're also listening to us on 3FM 92.7, on Unia FM 95.1. We're there in Takrade. This is Connect FM 97.1, and in Kumasi, Akuma FM is live on 89.1 FM. We're going to stay with you throughout the day, waiting patiently for the finance minister. Expectations are high and great. A build-up on the 2017 budget, is that what we're expecting, or perhaps a shift from what we've been doing? Government says it has stabilized the economy. So time now to build on that stability. Is that exactly what the finance minister will tell us? Now, what we'll do this morning largely is to take a peep into the mind of the finance minister. We do not as yet know what he has to tell Ghanaians. What we'll do, therefore, is to take a look into his mind and try and see if we can conjecture what he's likely to do until we see the real figures on the ground. So we've started a conversation this morning. Three guests I have to take a look at what the finance minister is likely to do. To my extreme left is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School and also a chartered accountant, Dr. Ibrahim Bedi. Good morning. I hope you are doing great. Grateful for your time with us. And then in the middle there is the man from the Center for Policy Analysis, very known when it comes to issues with economics, Dr. Joe Abbey. Good morning too. And I hope you are doing great.
Yes, okay.
Thanks for joining me. And then I also have Dr. Kwabenotu, the Director of Labour Research and Policy Institute of the Trades Union Congress. Good morning to you. I hope you are great. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for your time. As I said, what we'll do is to take a look at what's in the finance minister's mind. Dr. Abbey, let me begin with you. 2017, the finance minister said that he's sowing seeds that is expected to grow and create jobs. 2018, what should we expect from what he told us in 2017?
Well, I think you can say we are moving from the vision to the action, because particularly in the 4-year system, the second year becomes very crucial because the first year after a change in government, you want to look at the stock taking, because you move from the campaign, now you get into the seat, and you've got to take stock of what really you have inherited and see how to graft what you thought you were going to do to what you have inherited. Because the picture changes a lot, and 2016 was a difficult year. So the new government has come in. We have a huge debt burden, which is what calls for stabilization of the economy, reduce our debt burden, begin to convince investors that we can be relied upon. Otherwise, the cost of borrowing will be very heavy. So I expect that it will be, in terms of thinking, more of the same. He will have to deal with the question about how to match our revenue mobilization with our expenditures such that we will have reduced borrowing requirements. So that is the whole thing, how to put all the ambitious programs into this expenditure envelope, subject to how much revenue you can realize. If you don't do that, you're going to have to borrow big, and your debt level is too high.
All right. Those are initial comments. We'll come back to take a look at 2017 budget and if certain indicators were met. But Dr. Bedi, 2018, what should the finance minister tell Ghanaians to give them the courage that it is a build-up on the 2017 budget?
I came here with the budget statement for last year, and there are a number of things that were said that if you read about from page 3 to 4, it says that they were established the infrastructure for poverty eradication project. So it was just a substance. We expect that if it's been established, then how do we actualize the benefits and what things is done? The second thing that was supposed to, and this is what we refer to as the zone development fund. It's not been done actually. So I expect that if we were sowing a seed for development, we've not done it, and even if the idea is there, we should continue on that. The second thing was also done was the one district, one factory. So it still remains an idea. It still remains a concept. I know some work is being done, but then we still don't have the one village, one factory. So it's that if we are signing up a new year, then if you abandon these things and come up with something new, there'll be a country that begins a project and never ends.
So you were expecting a build-up on what was told in the past?
Yes.
That any shift will mean something is missing?
Good. Any shift simply means we don't adhere to our own plans. There are even things that we said last year that have not been implemented at all. And since then, not at all, I expect that we come and repeat those things, and this time put in place a mechanism to ensure that these projects and ideas are properly implemented for us to get the benefits.
We'll come back and take a deeper look at these issues in the 2017. But Dr. Otu, the Trade Union Congress early on visited the president and suggested that for them a more practical way of creating jobs is what they're expecting in the 2018 budget. That's an expectation I'm sure you're also looking up to.
Exactly. We expect this budget to be more of the same, as Prof. Doctor has alluded to. More of the same in the sense that we expect the budget to talk more about creating jobs without setting a target for that job creation. It will set a target for growth, inflation. So at the end of the year, we can assess how much inflation has been brought down or growth has been achieved. But then when it comes to a discussion of the question of jobs, it will be left to the political football game to determine whether government has created jobs or not. More of the same again, in the sense that we expect this budget, our expectation, hopefully, will be that we'll move away from a projectization of budgets to actual policy work analysis. So for instance, we are talking about one district, one factory. There's a certain policy framework which, if we do not address, may defeat the purpose of one district, one factory. There are questions about high interest rates. How are we going to address that? There are questions about over-liberalized trade. Our small struggling firms are pitched against very competitive industries elsewhere. We expect that this budget will move away from simply talking about projects here and there and addressing the policy questions that impede job creation in Ghana.
Those are the expectations. Right, so now let's go back to 2017. Dr. Abe, again beginning with you. What do you make of where we are so far? In 2017, we had Mr. Kenuforiata, the direction he wanted to take us to. As of now, what can we say about the 2017 budget?
Well, it's a question of what type of additional constraints he found when he became the finance minister. It's a removal from the campaign. The campaign hasn't got an adequate knowledge of what you will actually find when you enter the house. So it is a question of what you can perceive and what you can do. So 2017 was one of consolidation. The first thing that we realized was that government was unlikely to achieve its revenue projections. That was the first stumbling block. Now, so how are you going to fit your envelope of new initiatives, projects like has just been mentioned? How are you going to add that on to the ongoing projects that were already in the pipeline and still not have to go and borrow big? This is what he has been confronted. So it has meant that we are beginning to put some more time frame into when we're going to implement all of this, because we don't have it. The House was emptier than they thought. And the burdens that had also been left behind were larger than they may have thought. Everybody got a little bit more, if you like, aware of the situation when the 2016 outcomes started pouring out. That in terms of the program, we're off track, we had accumulated a lot of payment arrears in the system. The banking system was burdened with non-performing loans, therefore they couldn't extend credit. So you've got a whole package of new things to have to do. They've tried very hard to try and mobilize through the energy debt enough resources to be able to go to the banks and clean their balance sheets up. Because if you don't do that, the banks cannot lend to the private sector adequately and at reasonable cost. So that is the first drive. It's not so much what the tax incentives. If the banks cannot lend to the private sector, where would they get the working capital, investment capital to respond? So what will happen is that you throw a lot of incentives, but they will not generate jobs. So we've got to get the private sector moving. This is supposed to be a private sector-led economy. That's our economy. That's what we've been saying. But the way our governments have been running, we squeeze out the private sector in various ways. If we create payment arrears, we're locking up the working capital of suppliers of goods and services. So the energy bond went out, and you can find that we did not quite achieve our target, which leaves us with two problems. One is, do we have enough to sufficiently clear the stock of non-performing loans that have been given out by banks, but which are not being serviced? So they're stuck in the system. So banks are not willing to lend. And if they lend at very high interest rates. So you've got a private sector locked up. Because how are you going to proceed with your own capital all the time? In every system, the financial system must be working with the private sector. So that's a major problem. Meanwhile, all these are also adding to our debt. So there's a need for going back, as it were, to the drawing table, deciding, okay, how much can we spend through the District Assembly's Common Fund, how much through the Road Fund, how much through the GET Fund, the National Health Insurance, what can we do, the Zongo Fund? We've got to put all these things together and make sure that the managements are committed so that they also don't spend more than we've got and create payment arrears. So it's a tough call where we are. And giving, as I said before, a 4-year constitutional governance system, it means the second year really the government must move from the vision and begin to prioritize and bring the country together and make sure we can pursue, because projects don't yield fruit until they've grown up. So we've got to complete some of these things. We've got the SHS. There are reports, for example, 3 SHS. There are reports, for example, of some of the schools not ready, accommodation, teaching areas, and so on. So we need to solidify. If we can make sure that the big thing about free SHS, next year we get 2 streams. So it is important that we begin to focus and begin to assure that some of these things will have to be phased out a little bit more into the future. But take the country with us. Because if you don't do that, you start too many things, you don't get anything completed, we don't get the benefit.
Dr. Tuso, then if the finance minister, when he finally got into the seat, then realized that it was emptier than he had thought, then we can forgive him, as this morning the Business and Financial Times is saying, that we can forgive him because he couldn't meet certain targets, particularly the issue of job creation. If when he came in, things were not that rosy, the covers were empty, arrears were there, the debt was ballooning, then we can say that, look, this is the time for you to properly start the whole process. So we can forgive him.
I mean, if you look at our statement, proposal for the budget, we indicated clearly that we thought that 2017 was used for stabilization. and that there were urgent things that need to be addressed. The questions of debt, the deficit, inflation, exchange rate issues. So we thought that it was okay for government to use the 2017 budget to try to stabilize the macroeconomy. Our fears has always been that if you don't take care, we'll end up in endless stabilization. And the literal meaning of stabilization actually is that you are not going anywhere. And if you want to grow, then we need to do something beyond stabilization. And here, my emphasis is that we should try as hard as possible to move away from this project there, project here, to a situation where we take the entire policy terrain into consideration. So if you want to create jobs, the private sector is key. It's a private sector-led economy, we agree. But if you strangulate that private sector with high interest rates, if you strangulate that private sector with government not actually paying its debt to that private sector, you have a liberalized trade regime in which everything and everything comes in. These are the questions we need to assess. So we agree, stabilization for the first year.
So we should put a finger on one thing and get it done. Is that the suggestion?
If it's a policy priority or maybe a project priority, we should not pile on too many projects when we know our coffers are empty. But on the whole, the policy terrain itself needs to be addressed. Do we need to have this free market policy where interest rates are still determined by the market forces? Or we need some strategic government interventions in the money market by way of working with the banks, for instance, to bring down interest rate? Do we need a tweaking of our trade policy to give our struggling firms some breathing space so that they can prepare themselves using the domestic markets as their breeding ground to be able to prepare themselves to enter the international market? Mind you, we are seeking in the last 30 years to do what we call export-led industrialization. It is practically impossible to build export champions who are so badly beaten even on the domestic market.
We can't do it
unless we allow that private sector a certain room to make all the mistakes on the domestic market. How do you expect a struggling entrepreneur to suddenly be a champion on the international market when here he's borrowing at 30%, he's paying high energy cost, the roads are hard, everything here works against that entrepreneur, and you suddenly throw him up against competition from China, where the borrowing cost is less than 5%, where energy cost is very low, where infrastructure is almost excellent. My point is that we need to address the policy questions that constrain the private sector. We need to address the policy questions that makes it so harder for our businesses to expand. Part of it actually is also the way government operates, making it easier for businesses to be registered, making it easier for businesses to access government services, and actually government assisting businesses to grow, to be able to give us the jobs that we require.
So this policy issue you're raising, the 2017 budget did not go anywhere near it trying to fix it.
I think that the 2017 budget was more of the same in terms of policy rhetoric. Sorry for using the word rhetoric. It's been quoted this morning as being something from the teams.
All right.
It was, in terms of the policy rhetoric, it was the same.
Dr. Bedi, so from the two conversations I've just completed, perhaps if we look at the 2017 budget, there were a few things that should have been done. But from your own perspective, how did it fare?
Right. So I'm happy with this question. I'll put a certain perspective. The budget was read on 2nd of March 2017.
Right.
Today is 15th November. So virtually we are dealing with an 8-month budget. So almost about 3 months of the year was because it was a new government. Right. We all know of the issues of trying to put directors and the governing boards of different ministries. So all these things have an effect on revenue and mobilization and what you can do. So maybe we may not be too fair if we judge 2017 as a year
considering the
But
fact
less
that
than a year.
It does in a year.
Okay.
So, if you look at the 2017 budget, tax revenue was about 76% of total revenue. So, if you did 8 over 12 of that, to say they've worked for 8 months. So the question I asked myself was 2017 budget really a year budget or 8-month budget? Because if you have budget in March and you're ending December, did you set up for a whole year or 8 months? Let's even assume it's for a year. In any case, you want elections in December, so people should start working. As I talk now, JRA says they've collected about 90% of the targeted revenue. That will give you closely about 28 billion out of the 34. So we're about 6 billion short. Now, one of the things that is affecting us as a people, when you look at the 2017 budget, total revenue estimated was 44.9 billion. Total expenditure was 54, which is about 21% more. So right on the onset, we failed in budgeting. And once you fail in budgeting, people begin to lobby for projects because your money you're spending is 45 and you want to spend 54. That is when all the corruption and you have to lobby an MP and lobby because then you plan and you don't plan well. So I expect that as we move on as a country, let's plan within our projected revenue. In which case, you'll be specific with a project. And so our duty now becomes how do we raise that tax revenue? If I look at the target with the minister, let's say, set here, I can count about, let's say, 5 out of 7 that they've started implementation. And some of them came about a month ago. They spoke of the digital addressing system. It's in here. Last year, it was
the 2017.
They spoke about the free education. So you can see an attempt. So sometimes we just have to be a bit objective when we deal in these issues. So they spoke about restoration of teacher and nurses training allowance. It's been paid, or some have been paid. Right. So I won't say on a whole, if I'm judging them on 8 months, let's say we can give them about 70 to 80% delivering on the promises. But there's still a lot that has not been done. And that's why we are saying that it will be good to, as they said, to sow the seed for growth and jobs for this first year. And then moving to 2018, it becomes a stepping stone for us to be done.
Before I moved on, so for you, the repeated sometimes perception we get that the budget isn't anything new. It is just what we're told in the past year. When it happens, it should not discourage us because you are talking about continuing from the past.
Yes, so a typical budget, for example, if I have one factory, one dam, and you set up a secretariat, it's only the beginning of one factory, one dam. And so what you need to do is that now how do we make the secretariat ensure the dam is there and the factory is there? And then we can add on new projects. But don't add on a new project that clouds an initial idea. Or else the country is like starting a building. You've not finished a room and you are starting another project. You won't go anywhere. So your money is locked up in projects and the projects are not giving you the needed returns. Then as Dr. Abe is saying, you are borrowing. So if you took a loan to borrow to be a project which is not completed, how do you generate revenue to service those loans? So in proper budgeting and planning, you want to have these things done. One thing I will also say, I think from what Matthew Konik is saying, there are times when we must look at the policy issues well. If you look at us well, the free education is a very good policy, for which if we had good coordination, it should spur up some growth in the economy. The children are going to school, so the schools are swell up in terms of numbers. Right. They are being fed in school for free. So agriculture should also be growing, so that the farmer who now grows can sell to this our buffer center at a guaranteed price, so that the schools will get the schools will get the food to feed the children. Then, if that child is in that school, before you benefit from that free education, your father should be a tax-registered person. And so the issue of raising the tax base We are giving free education, but you cannot give a free education to a father
who's not paying tax, is working and not paying tax.
So what we are saying, let's have a very coordinated approach.
So the coordination is where the challenge is.
Good. And then we would have roped in more tax revenue. We go to the same free food education. We give the farmer the chance to grow the crops. We guarantee the farmer an income, which ensure the farmer pays taxes, and it becomes a cycle.
Dr. Abi, I'm coming back to you once again. So most of the times, and this is very much the picture you get painted by the opposition MPs when budgets are read, that it is the same thing we heard. But here we are told that there is some stability. They need to build on the stability. So what we're about to listen, if the finance minister comes back and is talking about free senior high school, comes back and is talking about one district, one factory, comes back and talks about one village, one down, comes back and talk about digital address system. Should we take it as a building up on the 2017, or perhaps what the opposition have always done? We have been told the same story.
Well, actually, you're touching on some of the political culture, which, frankly speaking, is counterproductive. We're getting a lot of debates, but we don't bring our minds to solve problems. So these GS and so on, whether in opposition and them come, it's a budget must be building on what we have achieved. So there will always be a point of continuity. What we need to find out is, so what progress have we made or not made? And I think I hear from our colleague from the TUC, the issue of policy. You know, we need to confront this question squarely. First, there's a timing problem. How do you generate jobs at a time when, because of the government's own financial situation, it is trying to contract its own hire? 300,000 youngsters are supposed to pour into our labor force every year. 300,000. A lot of them who have already come in have been educated, but they are unemployed. And yet nature is going to be adding another 300,000. So you want to fire the private sector, but you see, you are talking necessity now because the government can't hire them. Okay? We have been told that we have even vacant, unemployed doctors. Why? So we need to make sure we get our priorities, we get our whole policy regime put together. So there are good ideas. And if somebody is just going to sit down and if they hear about one village, one down, hear that it is the same, I'm sorry. Because what we inherited has not permitted us even the background to be able to persevere. So what I'm saying is this: when I hear from our colleagues looking at the labor situation, yes, we have also said that we have been too dependent on cocoa and gold and these commodity exports. We must add value. So even as you want to be adding value, you must know that you must add value and be still hoping to be competitive. If we produce these goods and they cannot compete even at home, then how do you want to be able to export them? So we must be watching about cost and quality at the same time. If not, Ghanaians must come together and decide that for the next 5 years, we will be willing to take in lower quality goods and at higher cost because we are building a team for tomorrow. Which means the manufacturers must also know that this is not the time to be making high profits when they are serving as high cost products and poor quality. So we must come with a contract among ourselves. We are willing as consumers to consume something which is below par for many reasons, so we'll get the jobs. So that the infants will grow. Because if you don't do that, there will be perpetual infants and we'll sit exactly where we are. So we must come to that. If you also say government must help, it requires resources. Where is the government going to get the resources to be helping? So the thing is for us to bring these ideas to the same, onto the same platform and thrash them out. So there's too much political partisan argument not geared to solving problems. It is a power game in which you run down your opponent so you get power. And then you begin to think about what to do. Meanwhile, they also start running you down to get power. We are reaching a point where that debate is being costly. If we are bringing inflation down, we need to be asking, what's the magic? How we bring inflation down? It is the unemployment which is sustaining the inflation coming down.
All right. Dr. Abe, I'm grateful. Doctor, we'll come back and deal with some other issues, but let's quickly get to the chamber now. Take a look at what's happening there. Preparations are underway in there. The finance minister is expected soon in that house. You can see not yet an active one. Some journalists and members of the public who would want to be part of the process already seated, waiting for proceedings. You can see virtually, totally empty chamber. The seats of MPs are totally empty, all of them, perhaps putting one or two together, expecting to hear from the finance minister when finally he gets onto the floor. So this is where all the action is expected to take place. Some technical men with various media houses also already positioned for action. So an expectant Parliament House, an expectant Ghanaian Economic Society, and a situation where we can say is indeed that is what every Ghanaian is waiting for. But let's get to the chamber itself and let us in more on what's happening there. All right, and we'll tell you more about what is expected there in the chamber when the MPs are seated and the finance minister is on the floor there. This is a continuous coverage of the 2018 budget. You're watching us live on TV3, on 3FM 92.7, and you can hear us if you're tuning there on NUA FM 95.1. In Takrady, this is Connect 97.1, and in Kumasi, Akuma 89.1 FM. 3news.com is following closely activities here in Parliament House, and more updates are there for you to be part of the process. But let me come back to my guest in the studio. Dr. Abe just concluded a second submission, but let me go to Dr. Otu. Quickly now, so let's talk about one key thing that everyone is expecting. The president has given hint that this is the budget that will create the jobs. The vice president has said it. In fact, a commentary on the 2018 budget has been the fact that let us see the jobs. Is the finance minister able to get that magic wand that produces the jobs?
I think it has to be a conversation in which we all share ideas as to how we create the jobs. This budget will probably continue the prospect of growing this economy. And I agree that the only way to get jobs is to grow the economy. Question is, what kind of growth are we looking at? Is it growth that is coming from oil and mining, which is what the last two quarters have produced? Growth driven by oil and mining. Now, if that is the case, then you are not going to get the jobs. Because actually, even as solid mineral outputs go up, actually jobs in the mining sector are coming down. Of course, now that we are actually also going after Galamsey, the jobs are coming down even more faster. Now, the entire Kwame Nkrumah FPSO, I think the entire rate can employ 120 or so people. So actually, we are not going to get jobs from the minerals sector or the raw material sector. What we need to do then is to shift our focus to domestic production, manufacturing. So when the previous budget says that they are shifting the focus of the economy from taxation to production, we hail it. It's a good sign. But what kind of production are we talking about?
Right.
Is it just extracting raw materials and exporting them? I think that kind of arrangement hasn't served us well. So we need to move away. We need to produce our toothpick. We need to be able to produce our soap. We need to be able to produce our footwear, sandals. But how do you do that when the interest rate is so high? There's no way you can do that from your own resources. You understand? But at a certain point also, it is not just a question of resources. It is the behavior of government and the policy signals it gives out.
How?
He talks about the free SHS. Theoretically, it's a fantastic concept to boost domestic production, the local production around, the food, the school feeding, the food. But if all the food are being imported, how then do you link the free SHS to the domestic economy? But to be able to do all of that, you need to look at the broader question of our trade policy. That makes domestic production so punitive and actually reward import and export. Let me ask you, if you have resources and you identify that Ghanaians like chicken a lot, between setting up a facility here to produce chicken and importing them from the UK, which one will earn you most profit?
Well,
and which one will you
quickly import.
Okay. So the policy actually incentivizes people to import. And once you are importing, you are exporting jobs. We need a policy direction that gives incentives for people to produce the chicken here, support them to be successful. But we also, as Dr. Abe indicated, need to also accept that the chicken we are going to get here will not be as of the quality as from the UK.
So it is not just putting up a chicken processing factory. That's not it.
That's not it. Because I'll ask myself, will I get a market? If I'm not going to get a market. So for instance, if you take one district, one factory, we probably need to do a proper value chain analysis of the product we are talking about, from raw material to the market. Do you have the raw materials? Do you have the market? If you don't, what can we do? Because by all means we must produce. What can we do to assist the entrepreneurs going into the one district, one factory to find the raw materials, to get the technology to produce, and to secure the market also for them? But finally, I agree with Dr. Abe that, you see, development is political. And every country with the kind of politics we have will never develop. And until we sort out our politics, where the mindset is that we are engaging in productive conversation to solve problems.
That's a huge statement, that we can never develop with what we're doing
unless we sort out our politics. Our politics, in my view, is so inimical to progress.
So our problem isn't the fact that we lack the knowledge, the skills to push the train on, but our politics is killing the train itself.
Exactly. We have the knowledge. I mean, Dr. Abe have been here for all this while. I mean, if you take the 2017 budget, one of the questions we need to be asking ourselves, what proportion of the budget has been executed in the last 8 months? Because it is one thing coming up with fine policies and another thing actually implementing them. My bet is that if for the last 10 years, if he had consistently implemented half of all the things, even a quarter of all the things we said we would do, this country would have been a different country by now.
Dr. Bedi,
let me,
yeah, that's a huge statement he's made there.
Yes, let me just add. If you look at 2017 budget, we estimated that taxes from international trade will be 21% of our tax revenue. So 21% of our taxes will come from international trade. International trade taxes are simply two: import taxes and export. And from just to add to what they're saying, we expect that about 96% of tax from international trade will come from imports. It means, as a country, we are not taking that pragmatic policy to say, let's do something about exports or local production or industry. So you do a budget, and in your mind, 96% of your 21% revenue should come from import duties means we are saying people should import. We are happy with the import. But if you are doing a budget and you're pragmatic about it, you would rather make import duty income go up with the view that you are doing something about it to raise that needed revenue. So a budget as a way of letting you see the psyche of the people and what we are in for. There are two projects that could have given us a lot of jobs and a lot of things in 2017 if we were pragmatic. One of them is the abolishment of this import duty that our
spare parts dealers were happy about.
A very good policy, but did we put in place the mechanisms to let it create the jobs? So you abolish a tax, but you make sure people are properly registered for tax purposes. The whole idea was that you abolish the tax, people import at reduced prices. The reduced prices will mean more people will buy, demand for the product will buy. Demand means more sales will be made. More sales means more profit will be made. More profit means more taxes will be made. So I give you off one, and I take from you 25% on profit. It will be higher than one. And then you put in the mechanism. And so you now abolish the tax. And the people say, we don't feel the tax. If I don't feel the tax, I dodge the tax net. And so you lose on 1%. We could have gone into a certain project. So there's a need to have a coordinated approach where if abolishing a tax, you do it so that the impact is felt by the entity for which it says, oh, my cost of production of whatever has gone down, and so I can employ in the private sector. And if I can employ, that person gets employment income. That is subject to tax. Because the cost is low, his profit also goes up. So you get two incomes from the individual. And so there are ways to do policies that ensures that the economy grows. And no wonder the title was to prepare the ground for growth and job creation. It was a good plan. But do we operationalize? Do we have policies? Do we think through the issue to get the maximum effect? That is where we need to go.
So in this direction, if we want to build on that, and the direction is to create the jobs, where should the finance minister be putting his fingers?
Good. So we can still, as you are saying, our politics is affecting us. So let's now change our politics. We are not change people. So let's still continue with the 2017 or even 2016. It doesn't matter the NDC idea, and it's a fine idea. What we need now is the practical steps. And so if we are abolishing, let's even assume we are abolishing VAT on imports. It will drastically reduce imports. Today, you buy a car in the US for about $150. You pay almost about 50,000 Ghana just to clear. So it makes it will increase the
cost of a car.
The cost. If I'm into agriculture, poultry, or whatever, because I'm importing my feed, it becomes expensive. So if we take those out, the next step will be how do you identify them for tax purposes so that the additional savings they are making, the additional revenue is making, is not lost out of the tax bracket. So that will require us to register. So we can have a policy that says we've abolished VAT. But before you can assess and enjoy it, let's make sure identification and being part of the system, that issue has been addressed. And then once that issue has been addressed, you can now identify that taxpayer. Then with the reduction in cost, he employs more staff. Employ more staff, then we are creating the jobs. Then that staff itself must also be tax identified. And so then the PYE will also come to the tax less than net. So you reduce 70.5 on VAT, but you know you get it from corporate taxes and get it from personal taxes. And then it goes. So what we need now will be a policy that will be able to say we are going to do ABCD to make sure that people who benefit from any abolishment of taxes are identified. We cut them, they are duly registered. We will be able to collect the taxes from them. But when we do it overall, and I'm hiding somewhere in Mokola or Kumasi market, and I can import and I can sell, and nobody will come for that revenue, there's no, then we are in trouble.
I'm grateful, Dr. Bedi. Dr. Bedi, so provide some advice to the finance minister on how to tease out these jobs and get people's expectations met.
Well, there are a couple of things that we can try to do, but let me take us back one step and then I'll answer the question.
Right.
The first thing is for us to understand that stabilizing an economy will mean that you're going to put brakes either on the non-oil productive sector. You are putting big brakes there. You got to break on the government side. Okay, when you tax more people, you are reducing the spending power in the system. When you reduce expenditures, those who have benefited from the expenditures don't benefit. So a consolidation of your program, or a consolidation program, it necessarily means that from the government side, we are going to be putting brakes on the economy. All right, which means that your hope must be on the private sector. There are two issues in the private sector. One is whether we have sufficiently solved the electricity power problem. So that, because today's economy is more energy intensive than before. So if you don't solve the power problem, manufacturing will not move. A lot of services will not move. So let us focus on an adequate solution of the power problem. It's number one. Number two is the cost of borrowing to the private sector. And that is why strengthening your banking system is number one priority. You've got to make sure that is what the government has been trying to do in terms of the GCB takeover of two other banks that carried huge non-performing loans on their books. So GCB has been encouraged to take over. Well, that requires that GCB itself will have to be capitalized. So we need to find resources to capitalize GCB so it can carry this burden. Okay? So we have two things. One is to clear the non-performing loans in the banking system. The other one is to strengthen the bank's capacity. That way, the private sector credit can grow and hopefully at a lower cost. So, and fixed infrastructure. The last thing I want to say is that creating jobs is not something you can just switch on and you are creating jobs. So we can borrow from the past. During the economic recovery program, we have something we call the PAMS card, a program of action to mitigate the social costs of adjustment. So we need, for example, we are talking a lot about sanitation. We need to under the people who have responsibility for sanitation, we can have work gangs that will pay them something to help to move the sanitation problem forward. You know, so you need to be able to understand there are roads that can be packaged a little better. So you can employ people to package our roads better whilst we wait for the big time reconstruction of the roads. So there are a number of things in communities that we can organize ourselves to do. Bring the cost of credit down, solve the electricity problem, the private sector, with these two things. Power on call, lower cost of borrowing, available credit. You don't need all these your tax incentives. They'll get on with it.
I'm grateful. We'll have to wrap up the conversation here this morning. Dr. Joabi is from the Center for Policy Analysis, talking of Dr. Ibrahim Bedi. He's a senior lecturer and also a chartered accountant. He's at the University of Ghana Business School. And Dr. Kwabena Otu is the Director of Labor Research and Policy Institute of the Trades Union Congress there. The conversation continues here as we get ready to receive the Finance Minister. You have all our platforms active on TV3, Connect FM, Akuma FM, Onia FM, and 3FM. citynews.com is also closely following activities here. Stay with us as Winston comes up next with a Deputy Information Minister, right, and we will continue the coverage of the 2018 budget.
mood. At the end, you're expecting the 2018 budget.
Right, me that say. Na maminchia warefo ni weti phone na. Yenko echi kakra. 2017 nimfiti ase na bra buy no finance minister ne o mampani ma asote ye say. O man na yaje na ye ba bebu no. Ensem wom. Ensem na wom no ne yesusu se nye but ye buy de ebehu ye no. Na nye sin de na yesusu no. Ohwe car na ameme ye over 120 billion. Ohwe sa abre no na Oman sika nyina akora da ho asasem bi ba ye di bedidi na endu more than 2.5 months. Sabre no na ohwe oman mpuntu no so ate from be 9% a owura kufuo edija wom ba be du be 3.6. Ohwe inflation na inflation na be 15%. Eno ye ekwan anema bo fa so koso. Ohwe interest rate ana akwaje bosia wo bank a ehunsi hu. Yo ha be 31%. Inti ade ane si eni so a aban bia ba foforo aban ne se obema oman no musika sem no agina yi fapem no agina yi etse de apese osidan na wonye foundation tie no ne ade a boso nso a de anima ye de ebu oman yi ubeka ya budget April ne afia se ye ho adwuma besi samri 7 months adwuma ya pa ne se ye de stabilize economy no ye de make sure so oman ni sika sem na atete apansa me kapudu e beto ye ne ade ye tua bi na enema anasa na poso e cheso man sika sem gina say inflation a 15% about be do by 11%. Interest rate buy na number 31% no say about down by 20 10 no percent e call from inflation kwa na percent e call do by 8% there about o mining puntu a na about down be do by 3.6 na fear we ye ka say be pejam na ko by 6.3 and the finance minister ba me wa regime pass be chere say 6.3 no either say you do and say ya trap ofa bibi ti say yesike da ho a ye be import cover me say na make e buy na be bosom be mienu pe say e ko be bosom be 9 a no kra ye prisika da ho bi account nti ni sika sem fapem no ya tutu ni yi na sa bre na so no senka ya ban bia nka de obeka na so de afa edi kan no etutu ne ma yi na afa etoso no wafi ni nyuma ase o mampani adoda nko akufo ado se opese afa na edi kan na no ye nyuma na efi ase nti free SHS efi ase afa we say restoration of nursing allowances efi ase afa we say kapudu a ye betu ye ka se ye behwe na oman ne ka ya try ate so no ya te so etua e ka ne bibiri me na obon se debt to GDP ratio no efi ase ba fom e ka se ye beye IPEP na IPEP ni mu no ye de $1 million per constituency afa e de aye adwuma no se nyame ncha de Trade Development Authorities na mrani na ya pass a fie we ye hwe nim se before a year ne bend na IPEP sika no anye kra ba nchichemu nan afa baako ye betumi a spend no afie we see ansa na akwa ewi
so the 275
constituencies about 25% of it Zongo Development Fund see ye kan ya ye hu mra na ko back and forth aba mra na ye asset up fund na ye wa rehim se betumi di sika ewuram ansa na ye si afifoforo ne mu enti eniama dodo a na ese beye na fie we no dodo na no yaye at the same time no so problems are beto ye no nyame adom Ghana for pipe boni o mampani ni mpanifo trimu penti no yetumi asuso sa problems ni bibria no ti afie da ye no 2018 budget ya and the finance minister ba be kan no eniama ehihia ye pa wo ni se fapem papa na yesi no ye betumi esom what occurs me kind of sustaining macroeconomic stability and your priority number 1 number 2 say asema obi aka ne say mo ne adwuma na de aka ne say ni na no ebe ma nyina so enye adwuma ni bia ye nti de toso mienu ne say ene ebe ma adwuma ebu bo se finance minister beto today niema a o ye ama adwuma ebu e wo Ghana memu ase ni ye de sika behim na de toso miensa ye be ma o mining puntuo growth no be be free 3.6 ye de aba 6.3 there about ye be say make sure sanya krafie be nya growth basis
honorable e hola ye estimating kakras ye kase growth or mining ye kase macroeconomic indicators and yoma ekoye but at the end of the day I was saying kojomo ametimo say tomatoes bof jene bof enti enu ye pese growth the impact on what we buy from the market
growth there was what you buy from the market there inflation
yes sure
inflation America says what from 15% abedu
yes. Inflation so swati
yes right. And no kire say e kwan anka niema bo be fa so akosoro no sa kwan no say e so te say to inflation bad down abedu be 8 abosa fi niema nkoso wa no bi what I say But the atosume no so growth no your mining puntu.
Yeah.
O mining nia emu bie na e kɔ nanim ntem wano no. Ɛno na me ne wo a sɛ be ye pɛ adwuma ye no. Ye benya ekwan because growth and the expansion ne jobs never. It is obi de o mining puntu o bafom or the growth ne bafom. I want to mean can terms of the growth ne bafom yet nkofo onye adwuma. Enye possible. But growth na ekosoro a impuntu oni kɔ nanim o mining mu bie no. E on expansion ne adwuma no eba. It is nyame ya adom na afie we say yensa ka 6.3% growth na ye target ye na yesusu say ye benya kra na say ye betra na afie da ye nim no nyame ya adom na etumi say nya be 6 afie bia be 6% a ubo so we compare population growth na chese wono ma ye wo ma omo ba job market no na omo so no afie bia ye kɔ ne be 6% a omu nya adwuma e job market no mu kakra.
And in the year 2080 yen share name say adwuma do say na ban betumi create.
Finance minister betu din anope me pese me kan asem na nsa no waka but wo say yen akato say de di kan enya ban kasa na e be create adwuma. Sure. Aban be yen hihye na oman no sikasem fapem agina oman no mu adwo na ya encourage ankra ya shom sapom nsuo na omo atumi biembie nnwuma e ma me ne wo yenya biaye. Enti afie we oboti se finance minister betu to na bi din a one e be ma oman sikasem na emu adwo no agina ejina no so no enema e be ya ma nkra pese bi adwuma omo sa ka sika omo aharom enyinam kane agina na omo ahwe no omo anya adwuma no ye hwe ama yenya de de be boa titiru ono mo me nkwala kakra be under 35 years on person bi adwuma special policy bi o wa na finance minister betu din a de boa mo so omatumi e bi adwuma no mafa me ne wo a e bia ye hwe bia na me nua bia wo hwe me na ono so pe adwuma e wo saa side ho.
Honorable, one district, one factory, more initiative, restoration of teacher training allowance, and this one about free SHS about, but do the sustainability. Sikan yebena, yebetumi sustain these policies.
Sika de debia sama ya kan say yepe. Na sika no so pa nyese na wo de to a ebukon mu ato nipa kon so. Anything e buy na to ni bi o wa yetete so no. But baby bedina ayen any target ayen ka say set ye ho. Yenya sika ni bia fine e de ye adwuma no. But I was a bring a bribia yeko and you make sure say a buying near ma or yes and yes, Sika beba by a catchino. A mudaho will be a to yan to walk it to my and Sika. Into the economics, my friend of domestic resource mobilization. A man a buying Sika, in Tokra to kakra, lampo kakra, vat kakra, way kakrano. Yahenia in ye na buying Sakascano. Say, Rene and ye na buying Sakascan de decline. Now they toss me no, you make sure say a buying penny for and for most canoe any or moon coya 1 chenkodi. A day 10 near ton 20. Ama or mine, send a ubibenya be with chile, catas share project dreams, any marketing kitten baby, and that's a cafe new. Ye katakata money now, so ye chichaso. Kakrani benyano, to Safia we say, yeah, and Ocrasa yenya revenue targeting in a back Kakrani yeno, ye dia jumapa. I don't think no be able to move when we moye, nemum. Yeah, that's a beam review. Any be men count. And whilst I raise revenue, no, now the idea is you make sure say you are too scanning go. And none of them are sustaining near or minor priority. The chatto was set a year a buying priority. So buying priority is all this kind of sebe. Everybody say more. And the other baby are no. On yes, come from any member here. But so buying priority is a bit making sure say kwala fees free SHS ebetua. Allowances ebetua and you can make sure says come here be a major can after that and them no and tell you can say more. That doom song but it's say yeah buying priorities in here honey and this cash and make sure says Sikano akom amani na it is a buying priority I be cost near the Sikawurum and make sure say Dane Dano na yenya home fast.
And I'm Kania once okay at least ahead of the budget presentation. Yan say Mubetin Kanias by what percent?
Ubeti of finance minister.
Oh, but at least Ubeti
say me can't let us any budget now or be kind of sebi in Kawa mekan cry again. On any penny no. Yet Enquala Yabuan was
but the airban
or no Babekan. But the airban when he beju. Sir, when he beju.
Right, honorable. Mame sign for one call the one constituency $1 million. This year, also a bibeko. Right, bear saying a beko.
Yeah, the name say Anya cry, bear 25% beko.
Okay, into 2018, 75 in our country, the beka, the new year, the other man in our corner.
Ghana Mrano, actually say, ya located Sika fee, Bina saying to me, and you swim we are a tucha, not the account. I just say, yes, I just say a committee. Meaning is say you bet me a committee now because you say na fi na mrano share northern development, middle belt, coastal development. Na fi penny for a year power mama ko yes adwuma no mu nyina apɛ baabi ye de on be share ansa na ye tumi ama sɛ ska na kɔ na ntu ne ye ka sɛ baabi a yebedu amrane a hye ne ye betumi aspend bi a be quarter but a chance we mu ye afia da ye nim ne dey expected by that time no authorities ne ye adwuma ntom sabe ka sika no be a adwuma.
Okay, let's just say this year the end ye be miss ye ntumi nya ne
emu be 25% dey no arehye mu sɛ be kɔ next year ye be funding the fully.
You be funding the fully. Okay, right. Honorable Matthias here, but moving from
minim say and what you also me baby also identify and no say ni na yanda IPEP no and $1 million per constituency no and a part of a juma my identify ni na sa high to them we dam we ni boni and unti no say omosaka at least the 25% allocation now account for this year now. We did this one bet me start now next year and the account bet me.
So far, Abaya to me are blocking loopholes in the baby. I have paperless sport in the NFC and yes cafe. Sika yenya say no a bit to me a funded the 2018 budget and I buy Bobbisia.
Say I buy and Bobbisia never say balance no budget near balance. Sika ye raising in one year best spending. But already near my was a year a dorsal. Sika ye here dia ye near man a dorsal. But already sika yen saka afie bia ye de adwuma na enye ni na ne nsaka afie twemu 2016 yayi aban ko bo besia be 10% of GDP ebe kan sika ogige ye ho ansana ode be ye adwuma ye ka say ye ba sa abosia bo ne ye bete so enti ye afie we yankobo 10% ya teso ma ne ba be 6.3% na nsaka ne de aka sika ba enya ho next year no enye no krese sika ye hwe nyina ye nsa beka but yesusu say ye nkobo besia even 6% near board this year no nti bon say curve no if 10% about 6 say next year ye bo besia be 4% kura on say e kofo mu ye koye nim na fi bon say ye tumi e de besia bo na ba down na fi o mine sika sem no ho ahare no na de yanka se sika ayempuntu e wo memo.
Right, honorable, quickly ansana ye be wrap up the yenhwe minority concerns be on my raise say indeed we share import levy now there were two components 1% no na we some boy abolish aka 2% no at the end of this year there was say a berry 2% no some boy abolish
minority omo kasa na omo ye double standards omo kasa o manu mienu abra e be na parliament aye ka say taxes ni be a nuisance enti ye be yi dia ye susu say a nuisance na fiso no omo say ye saa o man ni sika sem be hwan ti say no krepa say na wugidi e ba ne say na just 1 year down the line wa akoro ya wo dia badge na so say ye miti ye yankasa ye 33% revenue growth and projection targets ye miti nti ya ye bone uwie ya wa akoro ya wo say mema ye entity taxes no so because ye the fiscal jeopardy beba ye bema o man sika say hwan uwie wa san da no ano say 2 na aka no kra ye nyi o mo pa o man ye
that but 2 no mo be yi
enya dia sa 2 no tax we ye ba be last year ye nuisance taxes no that was the 1% now ye year and only yesu say a nuisance was so any year so omo feel say no ye nuisance aden no omo pass say tax no in the first place ye yanka say 2% ye nuisance ye ka say 1 doesn't ye nuisance any year wona feel ujira nche na say okay 2 no cry nuisance yi e wa bra wona ade 2 ne 1 ni na ba e wa bra ka say ye yi 1 no wo si buo 1 no cry ye yi a asembesi wo mam afi de wa dan wo say ye san ko yi 2 na account enya no cry no omo ka no dia media minim ene say o man si kasem se na atoto no dia ba be du no ye mentintim na fim kuntunjuma ye pese ye nye nka ho.
Right, honorable, finally mobile money mo better say
you say you no minority there e come here say o man create omo distortions no de namu na fi o say obi amram ye discuss ye nka da say e be tax mobile money wo 2018 budget mo ti ye nim be ko fa asem ni fi no mo ye ho press conference say ye be tax mobile money enne omo wi a ma me nka kire o de ombeka no manu aka so ye kan entina ya mfenka o budget no nye na ye wie you budget ye started be 2 months ago ye wie ya che by a part of the minority strategy omo create distortions be bredi tutum no mo invite ye nyina say ye be analyze omo distortions na ye mogo
right honorable ye better say ye see ye budget na ye be say ye na pay as train come all right I was for honorable Kojopon Kromaya deputy information minister and the train come on we cross over at this moment back to studio now for ye Alfredo can say so at train and come on.
Right, Kosia Sempa Medawasi. So that's how we're doing it, and we're bringing you a live coverage of it. And at least with what you've been seeing, we're living up to that expectation from Parliament with Bright Kosia Sempa just finishing that interview with Kojo Ponkoma, Member of Parliament for the Ofasi Edebe constituency. He's also a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament and Deputy Information Minister. They're giving us some pointers of what to expect. As we do know, they've said it, that the mobile money that you were very concerned about, including Nanekia Mensa Brampa, who joined me. So she does a lot of mobile money transactions, and we're just having a chat in studio if that is what's going to happen. But at least with this emphatic statement by Kojo Ponkoma, we should go by it. That, I mean, this mobile money tax that the minority talked about is something that is not going to happen, right?
Well, good to be here, Alfred. Good morning to you and the rest of the team inside Parliament, as well as our listeners and viewers on all the Media General platforms, Akuma FM, Onua FM, 3FM, as well as TV3 and 3news.com. We're live there. And talking about the mobile money issue, well, in my thoughts, I'm thinking, even if it was existing in the 2018 budget, we're expecting in an hour and some minutes to come, I'm sure definitely the majority in Parliament might have taken that out, considering the comments coming in from the public. In terms of mobile money transactions, there could be some reduction there in people taking advantage of it there. But also there are lots of discussions going on, Alfred, and looking at it that this administration is having its second major budget reading. The first for 2017 was the Asempa budget, and this, I understand, is the Adwuma budget, if I'm right there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, some of the names that are given to these budgets, and it's supposed to reflect the objective and what we're supposed to see going forward. But I know you're going to run us through some of the projections that we have made here at Media General.
Right, there are lots and lots of projections coming out there. We've had the issue of the budgets focusing more on jobs, tax reforms, fiscal policy reforms, as well as agriculture. But here at Media General, we are also focusing on three thematic areas, talking about revenue mobilization, talking about interest rates, as well as expenditure. And to begin with, this morning, we are beginning on revenue mobilization, and government's biggest challenge this year has been revenue mobilization, which is quite evident in the fact that in July, for that mid-year budget review, they had to revise its target, and consequently it is expected that the 2018 budget will introduce raft aggressive measures to ramp up domestic resource mobilization. And this is quite evident looking at the Ghana Revenue Authority's targets, as well as research conducted, especially talking about roping in the informal sector, talking about property taxes and new initiatives coming on board to get more people in paying their taxes and making sure that people who are tax compliant meet the necessary needs. And I'm sure that is where the digital addressing system comes in, as in identifying who is where, considering the locations and identifying where the wache seller would be, where the banana seller would be, where the banku seller or the gari seller would be, there to know how much they would also contribute, talking about paying taxes to the government. And the next we're looking at is the issue of interest rates, besides the issue of generating or mobilizing revenue. There's mountain wage bill, which is another headache of government, and it will be the high public debt, which is now nearing almost 70% of GDP. Very crucial is the high interest payment on loans, which eats about 35% of tax revenue. Quite recently, in some past days, we've been having interactions with the Association of Ghana Industries, who have also raised concern looking at the country's interest rates. The fact that even though inflation keeps dropping and some other indicators are showing some drop there, still high interest rates is existent. And Mr. Ferreira is also expected to announce measures to reprofile the debts and lengthen the repayment period from short-term to medium-term, as well as long-term. So
and okay, you know, this is that particular bit on the reprofiling of the debts is one that this particular administration has been very heavy on, if you recall. Now, they are going into the long-term bonds market to borrow more. So we're seeing a lot more 15-year bonds, 20-year bonds, and a lot more. As against the previous case where we had government going into the short-term bond markets where they were borrowing between 3 to 5 years. And so it crowded out the private sector. And that's one of the questions or the issues that the private sector raised, I recall, during the National Policy Summit engagements, that they expect that government will not go into the short-term bond market so that it will be freed up, then the private sector can borrow from that particular market. Now, government has done that, which has also influenced other major factors that influence interest rates. We're talking about inflation and policy rate. What does happen is that the banks have not now responded in like manner in reducing their interest rates on the loans that they advance to the private sector. As a result, the expected growth that the private sector was supposed to see as against government's own projections because of these measures they had implemented in going into the long-term bonds market, it's not being realized, because now the banks are also raising up the argument that, look, we still have NPLs, huge NPLs sitting on our books. The Bank of Ghana says NPLs now is going on about 21%.
Which looks like their major concern when it comes to
and so we're looking at also the energy debt, which the government went onto the bonds market some 3 weeks ago.
I call it the controversial.
Absolutely. We could not meet the target. But then what we're going to see going forward is that there's going to be a lot more focus and what I call the moral suasion on banks to want to begin to respond to the calls for interest rates to reduce. Because if one of the major focuses of this particular budget is the 2018 budget is industrialization, you cannot expect industries to grow when we are borrowing at humongous interest rates as 35% and below, as against neighboring Ivory Coast borrowing at 7%, and we're having banks in other countries
and it looks like we have the highest.
So the industrialization drive is going to be hindered by the huge interest rates that we have.
Well, Alfred, we've been talking about interest rates, we've been talking about budget deficits, growth, depreciation, policy rates, inflation, big terms. And trust me, we should expect more of these big terms in an hour or so when the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, presents the budget. But shortly before we look at this particular piece, I understand there's an update coming in from Zimbabwe, which you would want to take before we look at this.
Absolutely. While we are hooked up on the budget, we're not losing out on the happenings in Zimbabwe, because the military has seized control in Zimbabwe, but has also said that President Robert Mugabe, in power since 1980, is safe. Now, after seizing state television, an army spokesman announced it was targeting people close to Mr. Mugabe who had caused, quote-unquote, social and economic suffering. The move came after Mr. Mugabe sacked his deputy, Emerson Mnangagwa, in the favor of his wife, Grace Mugabe. Heavy gun and artillery fire could be heard in northern parts of the capital, Harare, early today. A statement read by a general on Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, that's ZBC, denied it was a coup and said Mr. Mugabe was safe, but did not say where he is. Professor Vladimir Enchidanson is joining us on the telephone now. He's an international relations expert, but head of academic affairs at the Armed Forces Training Command. Prof, I thank you very much. Good morning to you, if you can hear me, sir.
Good morning, and let's get where I work correctly. Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College.
Fantastic. Prof, thank you very much for your time this morning, and I'm very grateful. Yesterday when I spoke to you, you indicated that you're not surprised about what the happenings in Zimbabwe, and you actually did confirm that this is a cause for worry. Does this development indeed confirm that we are going to have to expect a lot more, or possibly a military takeover in Zimbabwe?
Not necessarily. As I indicated yesterday, it's a cause for worry. But then, because they advertised what they were going to do, it was not going to be a coup. It was not going to be a takeover. A coup is conspiratorial, sudden, and unexpected, and stuck the government. If you watch what happened, they made it clear, we are not happy with what is happening, and please watch out. And they announced it, and now they stepped in. They haven't taken over. They stepped in. If you watch the announcement, they were calling on the parliament to be resolute, and that they're helping them to do their work the way they should. They talked about the judiciary, they talked about the youth, they talked about the political parties. So they haven't changed anything as such. What they have changed is that they confined the commander-in-chief and the wife. They have also suspended their activities and brought in the vice president to continue. So it's not a takeover. It's ensuring the stability of the country and making sure that things rather didn't go awry or awkward. So I think we aren't going to see anything untoward, except if parts of the military decide to challenge this kind of dispensation.
Now, you talk about that, and indeed, the ZANU-PF, there's been a number of tweets which we're going to be getting into. They say that it is a democratic exercise. Now, how does this fit into that description when the military has brought back someone who was sacked by Robert Mugabe to hold the fort while they go through this democratic exercise that they're describing?
I think I support that description because it is the mandate of the military to ensure that there is stability in the country. So they have exercised that. If they had completely wiped away the government, installed another government, then that would have been difficult. But here it is that, yes, the man was sacked, but it was part of the making. And therefore, they're saying, come and hold the fort as we transit to normalcy. So I do not think, as I said, I will repeat, this is not a coup. Mind you, Zimbabwe is one of those countries in Africa, together with Egypt, where there is kind of cooptation where civil military relations are concerned. It's about the only two countries where the military and the government are usually one. And the military is seen as part of the making of stability and making of governance in the country. And so when you look at it from that angle, the military has done what they should do.
Now, with you talked about stability in Zimbabwe. Now, with this development, would you say that you have all the army chiefs on the same page on this? And yesterday, I raised a question about the allegiances and the level of loyalty that the army chiefs have for Robert Mugabe. It is very unclear what the army chiefs are, who they are going to be on their side if they have to carry out this. From your own reading of the situation there, is there going to be a situation where the army chiefs who still hold loyalty for Robert Mugabe would want to retaliate or also stage their grounds?
Well, within the military, there is what we call the hierarchy. There's what they call, if it is strong, once the head of, like what we have, equivalent of what we have, the CDS, has been the man in charge, then all service commanders will have to go to him, except, as I indicated earlier, that one or two of them would want to be mischievous. And again, the so-called coup you people call it, I don't want to call it that, it's an intervention which is normal, a step-in kind of intervention to restore stability. It's a situation where, you know, these service chiefs will not try and do that because the announcement didn't say, we have made a coup. We say it's continuity, but we must ensure that that continuity is straight and forward. He's talking about those corrupt persons who are around the president, who are making it difficult for things to run. He's talking about those people who don't want Zimbabwe to see stability, and therefore service chiefs will be a little awkward in trying to go behind their commander, their chief of defense staff, and say no. As for us, we are behind Mugabe. Because if you look at the whole situation, everything is for Mugabe rather, and not against Mugabe.
I see. Now, I see the statement, and finally, because of what's happening there, do you still maintain that the sub-regional body should be silent and not intervene anytime soon, even though there's been this development with the military trying to, as it were, stabilize the situation as you describe it?
I bet you two things. One, the sub-regional body does not have any right to intervene right now. Absolutely. Number two, the persons who are in charge now trying to stabilize Zimbabwe will have to be very careful about the trajectory, about how to go ahead from hence. Because enemies of Zimbabwe would try as wherever they can to ensure that either they don't succeed or if they hated Mugabe, They don't want to see instability in Zimbabwe so that they come in as godfathers and that kind of thing. That's my warning to them. But I don't think that any regional body, whether the AU or the SADC, should intervene in this case. I mean, it's not time for such intervention.
Prof, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning.
Yeah,
I'm grateful. Professor Vladimir Chidanso, the Director of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. And that's the development and what's happening in Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe. I don't know how to call it Robert Mugabe Zimbabwe still, but he's still in charge.
50-50, I would
He's still
say.
in charge. You know, there hasn't been any, they say
Well,
he's
I must
safe
say the
with
news
his
came
family.
as a surprise to me when I heard it this morning.
Well,
Quite
you said
a bit
the word is
difficult
coming
to
to an
decipher, though. But we're still staying on the 2018 budget, Alfred. And if you're watching us or listening to us, Akoma and Onua FM, you better must say for Semuguso 80 as a passo parliament or be pipe near me. Say the Potokasa and so far. I would also like to let you know that we are on 3FM Live and also on 3news.com and right here coming to you live from our news hub. And I'm sure my auntie in Abugblushi will be quite excited with this particular one because she's been asking, what is growth, depreciation? What is growth? What is depreciation? What is policy rate? What is inflation? Some of these business jargons, I would call them, would be very evident in this morning's 2018 budget presentation in Parliament, and I understand that these terms are quite difficult for some people to understand. But Solace Rose-Cote has been to town speaking with a cross-section of the public, as well as getting an expert's view to break down some of these terms for us in this following piece.
Minister presents the budget for the next year on the floor of Parliament. It's also that time of the year where most of us are left utterly clueless because we have absolutely no idea what most of these economic terms used during the budget hearing mean, like these guys.
Yes, some I do understand, but some I don't just understand.
GDP,
they talk about budget deficit, the GDP, inflation.
I don't really know about inflation, but then sometimes I have a general idea how prices go up and down during the economic activities.
My mom at Agbubloshi market, I'm thinking usually she bothers me with some of these things. That GDP near that no more can cry there.
Budget deficit, inflation,
the GDP, that part.
All right, so now just relax. I'm here bearing gifts of knowledge, because in order for us to understand some of these complicated economic jargons, we had to employ the services of one of the most astute economic minds in this country, Dr. Osei Asibi, and he will be breaking down what I would call Budget 101, economic jargons for dummies.
So first of all, the budget will make a presentation on the economic sectors, how did we perform in terms of our GDP growth, and when we talk about the GDP, we are looking at production, how much each one of us has produced. Okay, it can use that, or it can just look at our expenditure within the year. How much did every one of us spend? And then they'll put everything together, and that becomes the GDP. That one, it doesn't matter whether a Ghanaian or you are not a Ghanaian. Alternatively, how much every one of us earned, okay, and then they aggregate that, they put that together, and the total is what is called the GDP. So once that is done in a year, they compare that with what we did in the previous year. The difference tells us how much the economy has grown, and that is what is called growth. And that is very important because it tells us whether this economy is moving forward or is moving backward. The least you can do for economy is at least stay the same. If your GDP reduces, it means that the economy is not progressing, and which means that we are not making income. People are not getting jobs to do. Now, for this GDP, you can break them into three. Okay, we have the agricultural sector, we have the food crop, the cash crops, we have that's the livestock, we have the fisheries, and then we have the timber. When you come to the industrial sector, manufacturing, which plays a key role under the mining and quarrying, we have oil and gas also there. We have gold mine also there. The third aspect of the sectors is the services sector, include finance, banking, microfinance, savings and loans, and then insurance companies. Then we talk about even government social services, education, healthcare, water provision, and everything. And this is what is often termed as the real sector, having to do with production. Then we look at things that matter for prices, what we call inflation. We are going to hear the finance minister telling us that we have been able to stabilize inflation. What that means is that we are looking at the general price level. Every product has its price. You cannot just take one price and generalize that prices are going up or coming down. If last year was 15%, 15.7%, and this year is 12.1%, it means that prices are increasing, all right, but the speed at which it is increasing has slowed down. You know, it is only when we say inflation is zero, that is when the prices have not increased at all. So long as you have a positive figure like, say, 10, it means that it is increasing, but the speed at which it is increasing is slowing down. And so it serves as a very good indicator of how your economy is performing. If you have your prices increasing by the day, you know, it tells you that your economy is not being run well. It tells you that you are not producing more, and so people are not getting the goods and services they want to buy. So they put pressure on the prices upward. Yes, it tells you that maybe government is spending too much. So it tells you a lot. Another indicator that you hear them talk about will be interest rates. Okay, interest rates is like the cost of borrowing. When you own somebody, you pay an interest. We have the policy rate. Okay, the policy rate is the rate that the central bank charges the banks. It is also known as the discount rate. That rate is the most important rate of all if you want to control what we call inflation. For us to be able to produce more, the producers or firms or enterprises need access to finance. And many a times they don't have the money on their own. They don't have enough savings to do that. They have to go to the bank to borrow. And so the interest that they pay is very important, whether they will be able to go or not. And even if they are able to go, whether they are able to pay the interest or not. And let's move to exchange rates. That is the price at which we exchange the Ghana cedi for other currencies. If you want to go to abroad, London or USA to buy goods, you cannot go there with Ghana money. Okay, you need to exchange it for their currency, let's say the dollar. So you are purchasing the dollar. So the price for which you pay for purchasing that dollar with your Ghana cedi is the exchange rates. If your currency value goes down, then it means that the price at which you are buying that currency will increase. Maybe initially one Ghana cedi can buy $1, and then your cedi weakens, it weakens. So now one Ghana cedi can no longer buy $1, but it can buy 50 cents of a dollar. That is what we call depreciation. And then you are going to hear a lot about fiscal. This government is pursuing fiscal consolidation, fiscal policies, fiscal discipline. Anytime you mention fiscal, there are three things that comes to play. These are government taxes, government expenditures, and debt management. At the beginning of every year, government wants to see how much it has collected from the people. That is revenue. Okay, the taxes, what the taxes bring in. The revenue, we have tax revenues, and then we have the non-tax revenues. Those that are coming from tax rates, where people pay their taxes. Government also provides services here and there to the people, and people pay fees or royalties from, let's say, oil, gold mine, and all of that. So at the end of the day, government will then estimate the total revenues and then the total expenditures. Okay, and then it will take the difference. The whole essence is that whether the revenues are able to pay for the expenditures. So the difference is what we call the budget deficit. If, for example, the expenditures are more than the revenue, which means that your total revenue cannot pay for the entire expenditure. So you have a gap, a deficit. And that deficit, you have to pay for it. Like you are going to the market and you are going to buy something. You have 5 cedis in your pocket, but when you go, we said the 10 is 7 cedis. And then you said that, okay, I have 5 cedis, so take the 5 cedis and give me the 10. What does it mean? You still have 2 cedis to pay for, you know. So you need to, how can you pay for that 2 cedis? You either take somebody's money, okay, pay for me, later I'll come and give it to you, you know. So you borrow money to pay for that 2 cedis. And so anytime that deficit is there, it means that government debt stock will be increasing. Our debt to GDP ratio is about 71%. What that means is that if you take your total GDP, if your GDP, for example, your debt stock is $38 billion, and then your GDP is $48 billion. So we take the ratio, meaning that the whole country's total production, about 70% is what is needed to pay off our debt. So the remaining then is what is left for you and I. Finance Ministry will also be telling us about our external sector position. Trade deficits is the difference between our export and imports. You know, import means you are spending, okay? And exports bring you revenue. So if you import more than you're exporting, it means that you don't make enough to pay for your imports. And that import have to be paid for in foreign currency. So anytime your export falls short of your import, it means that your demand for foreign currency is more than the supply of the foreign currency. So you put pressure on your currency. And so you realize that the dollar begin to rise, or the exchange rate begin to go up.
Well, that's how we wrap up Budget 101, economic jargons for dummies. And hopefully you have learned a thing or two about the basic terminologies or economic terms during a budget reading and how they affect our individual lives. That's all. I am Solace Rose Quarty, TV3, Accra.
Well, Solace Rose Quarty there, and I must say thank you to Solace because I'm quite enlightened, Alfred. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. I mean,
more information
you
there.
can never know so much.
Yes.
I mean, I had someone, she talked about Bublo shit. Someone around Makola, there's that lady, Auntie Ache. Auntie Ache is watching us. Good morning to you. You know, she said the GDP is GDP. But at least we do know what GDP is.
Definitely.
Now. But thank you. Thank you, Solace. I think it's amazing.
Well, so we're still looking at our thematic areas for Media Journal. These are projections, what we have seen or what we're expecting to receive. But before I continue, you'd want to know that the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, we understand, has entered the chambers there in Parliament. And very soon we'll be going over there to know exactly what is happening inside. But out of the 61 billion that the minister will be requesting, seeking approval for from Parliament, TV3 Business understands that the allocations to MDAs will constitute about 50%, which will be disbursed into sectors such as the social, real estate, infrastructure, as well as good governance. And Alfred, I know that this is also in line with the agenda of government moving from aid to trade. But before we continue with this one, these are the pictures we're getting from Parliament now, and well, there are quite a number of MPs seated compared to the pictures we saw earlier there.
Absolutely. Yes, and so that's the chamber, Nanek, now. Really, we suspect that the normal time of 10 a.m. could be delayed just a bit because Parliament needs to be able to form a quorum. And also have majority MPs in Parliament to hear the finance minister speak. And
considering the time they wrapped up yesterday,
because of the special prosecutor bill, which they had to effect almost 60 amendments to before it was passed into law just yesterday. They spent about 2 or 3 hours on that particular bill. At least we do know now that it has been passed into law. We're awaiting the president's accent, and then we'll get to know who will be the special prosecutor. So that's what you saw on your screens there, with the MPs trickling into Parliament gradually for us all to hear.
The Speaker present there. I was looking at a breakdown of exactly what the 61 billion, which the finance minister will be seeking approval for there, looking at the various sectors. Now, the 50% I was talking about is likely to be allocated to other government units. For instance, we're expecting some 3.5 billion Ghana cedis to be allocated to the real estate sector, and some 1 billion Ghana cedis will be earmarked for government's flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program, which has already been launched, while the One District, One Factory policy will receive 430 million, with an announcement of a 100 million stimulus package for distressed but viable industries. And that One District, One Factory, there's also $1 million and one constituency, I'm sure. And that is one issue the minority also raised, expecting to see projections of $2 million per constituency.
Absolutely.
But Alfred, we will continue with this after this break when we return to discuss more on the budget.